We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello everybody, welcome to the Movie Mania podcast where we talk about past, present, and future. I am Sherman Trey White of Podcast Media, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend, yes, ladies and gentlemen, he liked Wonder Woman, Trillbee / Mr. Toddus. Hello Trillbee, how are you?
Does that make me special or noteworthy? I think the jury's kind of out. I think everyone likes Wonder Woman. Everyone.
Not everybody, apparently.
No one has any objections. Yeah. At least no one of sound mind and body. I mean, imagine if someone liked Terminator Genisys, but didn't like Wonder Woman. Like, no such person exists.
Imagine if someone like that would exist. You would think, right? You would think no one would ever think Terminator Genisys is better than Wonder Woman, but I'd imagine there's somebody out there. In fact, that would lead into our first news story. But before we get to that, how are you doing, Trillbee?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Good, thank you. I was going to spend today watching Death Note on Netflix, and then the reviews came in, and I thought, better not. I'm going to check out the anime instead, I think.
Yeah, I might do that if I have the time.
Yeah, I think if I like the anime, I may check out the movie just as a curiosity.
Yeah, just as an experiment. Like when you finish The Last Airbender, you just watch the movie. Have you seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I've seen. It's one of those films where I've seen so many people talk about it. I feel
I mean the cartoon, the animation.
Sorry, I've watched the first 2 seasons. I think I haven't finished it because it was on Netflix in the UK for a while, and then just as I was going to start series 3, they got rid of it. It might be back on. But I've lost that momentum, if that makes sense.
I would love to do an episode on that show. We might, in one of the drier weeks coming up in like January, when we get to that time. But for now, we have quite the busy weeks ahead of us. But we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
So today we'll be going over closing out the summer. As I start school tomorrow, we're closing out the summer of 2017.
School's back at the end of summer.
Unfortunately.
That's how it goes, right? That famous song?
Like that.
School's back.
Funny enough, as you know, I don't know if you guys know Trillbee, but pretty much every year there's a big storm that hits the United States of some kind. We call them hurricanes. I don't know if the UK gets them, but we have
wind
hurricanes.
tunnels. That's basically it.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. And so, essentially, what's with my volume? My volume's acting weird. Okay, I'll deal with that in a second. Can you hear me, Trillbee?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, something's wrong with my sensor.
It does sound like you're whispering a little bit, but it's very atmospheric, very creepy.
Yes, quite. Okay. No, there's something wrong with my audio, but I'll handle that later. But there's a hurricane it was supposed to hit the coast of Texas and Louisiana, which is where I'm at. And, like, it was crazy because everyone in in all the movies, everyone goes to the supermarket and, like, clears out all the food and stuff. If you go to our supermarkets that we have here, they, like, all the chips are gone, all the bottled water is gone, people were siphoning gas, and so it was so bad that they had to have cops at the gas stations, and then after all this, we barely got any rain, so...
Oh, at least now you're all stocked up?
Apparently, yeah, well, gas prices are going to skyrocket, but I don't drive, so that's that.
Yeah, it works out for you. It's everyone else who suffers.
It's everyone else that's going to suffer.
I did see something on Twitter, though, where they showed the photo of a ransacked mall shelf, and all the shelves were empty, all except one where it was a weird flavour of Lay's. like a weird potato chip flavor. Because they'd rather.
I bet it wasn't chicken and waffles, because chicken and waffles is hilarious. Or hilarious, it's delicious. Have you ever tried Lay's chicken and waffles?
It's hilariously delicious. No, we don't have Lay's in the UK. They're called Walkers, but it's basically the same logo, except it says Walkers. So I think it might be the same company, but we don't have that flavor.
Anyways, the kettle cooked chips are the best. Anyways, the extra crunchy ones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Crisp Mania podcast. We talk chips, past, present, and future.
We can add everyone playing Move Mania Bingo can tick off the random conversation about nothing, about our daily lives. You know what, Trillbee? let's just jump into the movie news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
Alright, Trillbee. This is the movie news portion of the show in which we talk about the movie news that came over the last week. Forgot to breathe. Briefly, time codes listed down below, and we officially ran out of logos.
Okay.
So we're going to go back to using, I believe it's Geek Bird Chill. I could be wrong, though. I believe that's his logo that won the contest last year. So we're going to go back to using that one as the official logo of the podcast. Unless you guys want to send in more, in which case we'll use those as well.
Yeah, but we won't say no.
Yeah, we finally... I can't believe it. I was going through my whole file of all the thumbnails, and last week I was like, oh, I guess we used up all our logos. Watch, there's going to be one guy that's like, you didn't use my logo. I'm like, well, send it to me, because I think I've sent so many. Okay, Joe, we're going to start with movie news here. James Cameron had some thoughts about Wonder Woman. Now, I have not read this article. I've only seen the reaction. Joby, can you lay down what's going on here? Can you inform us?
Okay, this is the TLDR version. Too long didn't read. Basically, James Cameron, the problem that the problem that he had with Wonder Woman, Patty Jenkins' film from earlier this year, is that she was basically really powerful, really strong person physically, but she was also incredibly beautiful, and that is somehow a step backwards.
Okay.
That's kind of the long and short of it, except he did it in like 3 paragraphs, because if we know anything from, say, Avatar, he doesn't know how to really do anything with brevity, at least not anymore. But that was essentially the issue that he had with Wonder Woman. I'll try and find the complete quote. Basically, because he viewed her as like a power fantasy for women as opposed to something, a character within her own right. If that makes sense, I'm going to try and find the exact same quote, but based on that description, that's probably not doing it justice. What's your takeaway?
Well, I think from the sounds of it, it sounds like an old man stuck in his ways, but it's not like it's Clint Eastwood saying this. It's James Cameron, who's made arguably some of the strongest female protagonists ever. You know, whether it be Sadakana in both Terminator films, or Ripley in Aliens, or even, in my opinion, Rose in Titanic, even though I hate that movie. Jack, I'm flying, and I'm also selfish. I can't put people on the door.
Okay, so I've got the quote here. It says, "Wonder Woman is just an objectified icon, and it's just male Hollywood doing the same old thing."
Really?
He says that Wonder Woman is a step backwards from his own Terminator franchise, which starred Linda Hamilton, who he was also married to, and he described Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor as not a beauty icon, and that she basically compensated for her strong will and her power and her agency. So the main umbrage that he seems to take with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is that she also does look like a beauty model.
So she's a strong-willed character with good motivation and a really interesting story arc, but she also happens to be beautiful, so that's bad. Look,
essentially.
I can understand the sentiment of not wanting everyone in Hollywood movies to be beautiful. I can get behind that. In my opinion, we don't get enough movies about ugly people. That's just my opinion. I get that, but that's not a reason to call Wonder Woman a bad film. You know what I mean? I don't love Wonder Woman. I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but I don't love the movie. I don't think that's any reason to take umbrage with what DC's doing. Not to mention, call it male Hollywood, but Patty Jenkins, that's her movie. This is her baby. That she was able to make a film and withstand all the whatever is going on at DC right now. And she was able to rise above that and give us an actual competently made, pretty kick-ass action film. You know?
On the surface, I kind of get what he's saying, because his quote says, Sarah Connor was not a beauty icon. She was strong, she was troubled, she was a terrible mother, and she earned the respect of the audience through pure grit. And to me, the benefit of characters like Sarah Connor is so obvious. I mean, half the audience is female. So I get on the surface what he's saying, but comparing Sarah Connor to Wonder Woman or Diana Prince is it's disingenuous. You can't. Yeah, the only thing they really have in common is their gender, because what you have with Wonder Woman is at the beginning of the film she's a naive idealist, whereas Sarah Connor she not only has 2 films to evolve and grow and change, but she is basically, her entire worldview is changed within the first act of the movie, whereas Wonder Woman, that happens more towards the end. And also at the beginning of Terminator 2, she is someone who, her opening scene is her doing chin-ups in her prison cell, and then she attacks the guards who try to sedate her, and then, they're 2 very, very different characters. And there's also the idea of Wonder Woman, the way that Patty Jenkins and the DOP, I forget his or her name off the top of my head and I feel really bad, when there's some certain shots in Wonder Woman where, yes, it's framed that Gal Gadot is beautiful, she's Israeli model, she looks gorgeous, she dominates the frame. It's not a leering camera. It's not like Michael Bay having a pornographic sensibility with
Elizabeth Olsen in Wind River.
Hey, we had this discussion last week. It's the roundness of the butt. It's symbolic. But with Megan Fox bent over the hood of the car, or the very first shot of what's her name from Transformers 3.
That tracking shot up the stairs.
Yes, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, and it's the very first shot is an ass shot of this complete stranger.
Yeah, thank God she did Mad Max, by the way, to prove that she's actually a competent, lead. But
exactly, and I also think that there is something to be said that when you get these, when you like you were saying earlier, it's not often that you get different. Like, there aren't enough movies about ugly people, and I will say there's not many movies about ugly women or conventional women. When you have males, you have body types and shapes of all different kinds. You have all this variety. You have characters that range from Shrek. You also have incredibly good-looking characters like Leonardo DiCaprio in any film he's in. You have the entire spectrum. Whereas
Django Unchained.
he looks good in that goatee. But then when you have women, you have Monster, with directed by Patty Jenkins as well. Mm-hmm. And maybe a few more you can name on one hand in terms of mainstream appeal films. It's the disparity is obvious. That men can be anything. Men in films can be anything and look like anything. Women have this very narrow view in terms of being on camera, unless you're a supporting comic relief character. The only person who seems to really buck that trend recently is Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, well, I mean, but then again, I'd have to disagree with you because Melissa McCarthy relies on a lot of unslapstick comedy, and she's kind of like, I don't like a Chris Farley kind of type where it's just.
I'm talking about just her mere presence as a leading lady.
Yeah, but I suppose that's true. But I feel like she's a leading lady. Yeah. I don't know if she's necessarily successful anymore. I think she had maybe like 2 or 3 good hits.
She's Academy Award nominee.
But the Academy Award nominated role is what kind of launched her into the spotlight for a lot of people.
But I'm sure that she may have a few films as a supporting character and then have a few more leads in Paul Feig films. It'll be interesting to see where her career goes. We've also got what's her name from Precious.
Gabrielle Sidibe,
yeah, who did Precious, and then like 5 years later was a comic relief character in The Brothers Grimsby, and that's it.
She was in Tower Heist with Ben Stiller and Trey Murphy.
No one remembers Tower Heist.
I was about to say, funny movie. Not enough people have seen that film. It's a good film. It's a good film. I thought it was. I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's a fantastic Oscar winner, but it's a nice, fun film. I really dug it.
Isn't that the film where there was the whole dispute between the studio and the multiplexes because they wanted to have audiences digitally rent it for $100?
Is that true? I had no idea.
It was something insane like that.
I know Donald Trump disparaged the film because the movie was essentially based off Trump Tower. I know that.
Well, what would he know?
Movie Mania bingo. Tick off the politic talk. Yep.
Yeah, but no. We don't need to do that because Trump's on holiday again. He's gone on holiday after taking a 17-day holiday again.
For what? Did you hear what he said about the? He spoke about the hurricane.
And he was like, "Good luck."
Yeah.
Can you just imagine if he was like a Taken villain? Like, the hurricane's on its way. We've got limited supplies. We're all gonna die. Good luck. The hurricane's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge. Can someone take that?
Can we take that like the Liam Neeson? Like, I will kill you, and then you just hear Donald Trump. Good luck. Like, it's just him on his phone. Good luck finding me. I'm way too good at hiding, Liam Neeson. Never be able to find me. Five people have died, Trillbee.
Okay.
Like 5 people died in this hurricane.
It's all a hoax because global warming is a myth from the Chinese. But anyway, this tower heist thing. Thank you for that distraction, so I could look up the story.
It's a good film. Alan Alda.
Universal Pictures announced that Tower Heist would be made available for home viewing via Comcast's video-on-demand service 3 weeks after its theatrical release at the rental cost of $59.99. And Cinemark and many other multiplexes boycotted the film.
Oh, how much money did it end up making?
It ended up making 152 million worldwide. Let's get the domestic number because that's the one.
That's a bloody shame.
It'll be affected by the boycott only in America. So
yeah, Cinemark's a decent sized chain too.
78 million domestically, which you know what that's not bad, but that is its production budget basically.
Yeah, it did okay. It had a big cast: Matthew Broderick, Casey Affleck. First movie I ever saw Casey Affleck in, by the way. I was 11 when it came out. I really liked that film. Anyways, what were we talking about before we went to Tower
Wonder
Heist?
Woman and James
Cameron.
City
there. Objectifying women in film. There we go.
Yeah. It was just after Terminator 2 was released that James Cameron and Linda Hamilton started dating, and they got divorced a few years later, and yada yada yada.
Gee, I wonder why.
Sorry?
I said, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, there's apparently some bad stories about that relationship, but that's neither here nor there for this podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think I do take umbrage with the idea that you have to be either really strong-willed and have grit, or be beautiful. I think that Patty Jenkins' response is completely on the money, where she says that women can be anything. They can be, can have that contrast, or they can have those interlocking elements of their personality. It's I think in order to put women on screen in these boxes, these predefined boxes that only James Cameron approves of, is very reductive. And considering that he made Aliens and the first 2 Terminator films and The Abyss, which had female leads, it seems really, really hypocritical of him to sort of take a stance like that. Are
we gonna watch? Are we gonna watch Avatar? And Neytiri's gonna be like super objectified and like weak, and is she no longer gonna be the person that kind of takes charge and has to fight these bad guys? Because Neytiri's the one that kills the villain in Avatar, doesn't she? Well,
I did see there was an interview that James Cameron did with Playboy talking about Avatar, and they've just got all. It's a really sleazy interview, and Cameron says, and I'm quoting, "Right from the beginning I said she's got to have tits, even though that makes no sense because her race, the Na'vi, aren't placental mammals. I designed her costumes based on the taparobo, a loincloth thing worn by Mayan Indians. We go to another planet in this movie, so it'd be stupid if she ran around in a Brazilian thong or a fur bikini. Yes, I came up with these with her breasts being on view, free floating lion's manes. It's a really sleazy interview. It's actually kind of a tough read. It seems like James Cameron, circa 2009, when he made Avatar, is not the same filmmaker who did Terminator 2.
Yeah, it would appear not. Yeah. Well, now I feel like I need a shower. This whole thing just feels like I kind of want to shove it out of existence. Speaking of shoving out of existence, apparently the Batman's no longer going to take place in the DCEU. Or is it?
This is confusing.
So, Trillbee, Okay, so apparently a couple of days ago, probably maybe 5 days ago at this point, at the time of this recording, Matt Reeves, director of the 2 Planet of the Apes films, Cloverfield, Let Me In, very competent filmmaker, was who we know is directing the Batman. Apparently, there is something going around that he said that the Batman will be taking place outside the world of the DC Extended Universe. Now, people ran with that, and that was a big story of Batman's now officially out of the DCEU. However, maybe a day or two later, it was then said that the Batman is in the DCEU. But keep in mind, people have been saying that Ben Affleck wants out of the DCEU for months at this point, maybe. And let's also keep in mind that I know where this rumor got started. I was listening to the podcast on which it got started. Because it was John Campea of Collider Movie Talk. And he said that he had heard something about Ben Affleck not wanting to be in the DCEU. And he said, take that with a grain of salt. So everyone that's saying that Ben Affleck doesn't want to be in the DCEU, keep in mind that it came from one guy who heard something from another guy, who neither of which know how valid that rumor is. I don't know. What do you think about this, Trillbee?
Well, the podcast that Matt Reeves made this quote that was doing the rounds, talking about how Batman was not going to be part of the DC extended universe. And then once the news stories ran, he went on Twitter and was like, "What?" He was like, "Whoa, what did I miss?" And apparently his reasoning was that his quote was misinterpreted in that he meant there's going to be no broader connections to the DC extended universe. There's going to be no reference to Superman, to Wonder Woman, to the events of Justice League. There's not going to be any cameos. It's going to be an incredibly standalone film. And I think when you listen to his original quote, which he did do on a podcast, I can't remember the name of the podcast off the top of my head, when you listen to that quote with that explanation, it lines up. It's not like he said something and he's gone out of his way to retract it.
Okay. He's not venoming us. He's not pulling a venom. No,
maybe he could have worded it a bit better, and if anything, I'm kind of disappointed in the podcast host for not pressing that question and asking him to clarify. That would have made things an awful lot easier on Matt Reeves and Warner Brothers over the past week in terms of their PR. But it seems like the Batman film is going to be part of the DC Extended Universe. It's just not going to have any references or connections to that wider universe.
Okay. So it's going to be very standalone, kind of like in the way that Doctor Strange feels very standalone in the MCU. Like there's maybe one reference to the Avengers at the very end.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So like Wonder Woman, where there's like, a Bruce Wayne truck in the background somewhere.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, say, Ant-Man, where Falcon shows up, or Thor Ragnarok, where it is these two different franchises colliding in this buddy road trip movie. It's going to be, according to Matt Reeves, just a standalone Batman film with no broader connection.
That
seems fair.
Sounds great. Yes. Now, keep in mind, I am still down for the Batman to be just like someone's killing people in Gotham, and I gotta find out who it is. Like, I'm totally down for Batman just doing like a new, like essentially just Blade Runner with Batman. I'm completely fine with that. By the way, like just make the villain Tommy. What's his name? Hush.
So?
Tommy Elliott. No.
Why is it long ago? Why was it?
Hi, Bruce.
That's where my brain went.
Because you're probably thinking of the Disaster Artist, which is coming out, which we'll talk about that more next week when we do the fall movie preview. Whoops. Spoilers.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. By the way, someone commented on the last week's podcast, and they were just like, man, I wish these podcasts would come out more frequently. Listen, guys, we're trying.
We're trying so hard. We're trying harder than Tommy Wiseau to make the room to do that take.
Yes, I am. What line?
Line. What is line?
What is line?
But it was.
I love that trailer so much.
But this story for the Batman, it was just really, really bad timing because it came a few days after there was these stories about, we're doing a Joker origin movie. We're doing a Joker.
Trillbee.
Yeah, we're doing a Joker Harley Quinn movie. They're doing a Joker movie.
Gotham Sirens isn't happening anymore. Suicide Squad 2 is still happening, but it has no director. What's the schedule of the DCEU like right now?
Fucked.
Like, it's that came out by surprise.
Well, you know, in 21 Jump Street, when Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill take all of the drugs, and then at the end, Channing Tatum's on the whiteboard saying, "Fuck you, science." That whiteboard is Warner Brothers' release schedule right now.
Oh my god!
If this past week is to be believed, because
I thought you were saying like in the end credits of 22 Jump Street, where they just go through all the films, and then Jonah Hill just becomes Seth Rogen for a movie. I love that. So what contract negotiation?
But we had like 3 Joker films announced in 1 week, all of them seemingly conflicting with each other, and
right, all seemingly going to have different actors. Like,
yeah, and then we also had this Batman story. It was really bad timing. It was a rough week to be a Warner Brothers PR agent. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Oh yes. All our fellow DC brethren are struggling right now to really keep. Because Wonder Woman really gave DC a lot of good grace back with the world, and they're just. Jeff Johns was brought on like over a year ago. What is going on?
I don't know. I think he's taken all of the cocaine. He wants more, so he wants more movies need to be greenlit. We need to add to the pile. Let's get this done.
He picks up his head out of his pile of cocaine just enough time to announce like Gotham Sirens.
Oh no! What he does is that he he's got his cocaine pile. Warner Brothers execs walk in and they say, "Oh, Jeff, do you have any more ideas for Batman films? Do you have any more?" And then he slams his fists on the table and says, "Move! Get out of my room!" And then as he slams his fist, the cocaine pile sort of collapses slightly, revealing a copy of The Killing Joke graphic novel underneath it. And then he says, "Idea!"
Idea! And it's like, but how? But how? Then you see a picture of Batgirl on the window, and it's like, aha!
I thought you were going to quote the Grinch then. Jeff Johns got an awful idea. A horrible, awful, terrible idea.
I was just watching the Peanuts movie a couple hours ago, and I don't know.
Good,
that reminded me of that. Grinch. Oh, that reminds me, we're getting the Grinch next year, aren't we, with Ben Cumberbatch?
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to it.
I would, but it's the same people who made the Lorax, and the Lorax is just a massive...
It's Illumination? It's Illumination.
No, Blue Sky?
Blue Sky did the Peanuts movie.
I may have just completely talked out of my arse then. So no difference there then. No, it is Illumination, sorry.
Oh, never mind. Well, that ends that idea.
So yeah, it is Illumination, but they are the ones who did... Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, which is basically, be anti-corporate, and we'll fill our movie with all of the product placement.
Yeah. Guys, corporations are never good. And so, drive to our protest in a Honda CX-7, and make sure you stop on the way to IHOP while you're doing that. And then get some Lorax brake fluid, because when you think of the Lorax, you think of brake fluid.
Oh, and also non-recyclable 3D glasses. Yeah, I know. It's the worst. Lorax, I think it made like my top 5 worst of 2012.
I went and saw it in the theater.
It's so bad. So
yeah.
It's that creative team doing the Grinch, but
never mind.
Hopefully,
I can't wait for the Grinch to not go through some kind of character arc and just kind of be a wacky, crazy guy the entire time. Whoa! Am I the one that likes Ron Howard's The Grinch? By the way, I like that movie a lot with Jim Carrey.
I don't hate it.
Keep in mind, I haven't seen it in 4 years, but yeah.
I watched it this Christmas just gone because my fiance bought it on Blu-ray and really wanted to watch it, so I watched it with her.
Right on.
And some of it's good. It's alright.
It's different. It's definitely not in the spirit of the cartoon or even the book. But I'm not as attached to that book as I am as the Lorax. Lorax is one of my favorite books of all time.
Oh, the 70s cartoon is also... 80s cartoon. There was a Lorax cartoon.
It's fantastic.
Like a 30-minute special. Really good.
It's fantastic.
You can watch it all on YouTube.
It ends like the book, and it's so bleak, and it's like, well... It's bleak yet hopeful, and if I were to make a Lorax movie, I would end it the same way. They would never let me, of course, but I feel like Pixar might. I don't know what they did. This is give it to Pixar. Pixar might. Could you imagine if Pixar did a Lorax movie? Oh, that'd be great.
But see, unless the studio making these films cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not.
It's not. I love that line so much. Could you imagine watching the Lorax and it ends that way and it just fades out after it's not? Do you know how many kids would cry in the theater? It'd be amazing.
They'd cry, and I would get fuel from their tears.
Yeah, they would cry, and it'd be like... and the mom would be like, what monster made this movie? And it would just be my name on the screen.
Yeah, but then the minions come along, like, Illumination!
Illumination! Look, I still like the Minions. I don't care. Like, the Minion movie's terrible, but Despicable Me 2, in my opinion, is really good. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, so speaking of terrible... so, as you announced, the Joker was very popular this week for a few reasons. One of which being... So, here's what most headlines involving the Joker this week said. Martin Scorsese developing Joker origin film. And I got so many comments from people that I would post on, and people were like, but Martin Scorsese's doing it, so it's whatever. Let me clarify. Martin Scorsese is not directing a Joker origin film. As interested as I would be in that, I'm not saying I want that either. I don't want a Joker origin film. Todd Phillips is directing and writing the film. Martin Scorsese Martin Scorsese is producing the flick, which you could say, oh, hey, that's great, Martin Scorsese is producing it. Steven Spielberg produces the Transformers films. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So producer can mean a lot of things. You know, Christopher Nolan is the executive producer on Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
There's the producer can mean a lot of things.
Well, Scorsese doesn't throw his name to as many projects as, say, Steven Spielberg does in terms of producing.
Yeah.
Like, for example, he produced Free Fire, the Ben Wheatley film that I reviewed a couple of months back on the podcast. That was really good.
I still have to check that out. I still gotta check that one out.
It's really good. It's one of those films I imagine will go to Netflix relatively quickly. That might be the ideal environment to watch it in. But so he doesn't attach his name to that many projects. So I imagine maybe he was just having a meeting with Warner Brothers about another thing, and then then maybe they asked him, "Hey, want to do comic books?" And he says, "I want to do the Joker." And they thought, "Let's get back to you on that." Who was in the room? Then Todd Phillips walks in for a completely unrelated project. That guy.
This is not what I want. When I said I wanted Martin Scorsese to do Batman, when I said I wanted Scorsese to do Batman, I wanted him to be like in like 10 years, you know? So when Ben Affleck's like 60, we can get like Dark Knight Returns, you know? We're like, you can get old. Never mind. It's all ruined. Or, man, it's all gone. This whole thing's just complete. What'd you say earlier, Trillbee? That's exactly what this is.
Fucked?
This whole situation. Yes, just like that. Yes, Trillbee.
Yeah, it's apparently going to be set in the 1980s in the vein of earlier Scorsese films like Taxi Driver or Raging Bull, and it's going to be a Joker origin story. And it's not going to star Jared Leto. It's going to star a completely different Joker. Karen Gillan, of all people, has thrown her hat in the ring. One of the guys from Get Out apparently wants to be the next
Bradley
Joker.
Whitford. Bradley Whitford.
I'm just seeing a headline saying Get Out star. Oh no, Lakeith Lestanfeld. I don't know who that is.
Have you seen Get Out? You've seen Get Out. I think that's the guy that gets kidnapped at the beginning.
Either way, that guy wants to be the Joker.
Okay.
But I feel like Warner Brothers, they have a good thing going with Wonder Woman. Hopefully Justice League is going to be good. And then once
is
they
it
have
racist for a black guy to play the Joker?
I am absolutely the wrong guy to ask that question to.
Well, you know what I mean? It's like if you put a white a white guy and he's like, "Oh, I have to wear all black makeup for this character." Is it racist?
I don't think it is because
No,
because not to drag the topic down, but blackface has incredibly negative connotations, whereas whiteface does not have that context.
No, it's not.
I don't think it's as bad, but you will hear many angry white guys.
Yes. Oh, well, people are going to get angry about this no matter what you do. I am interested though, because if you do, could you imagine if they cast a female Joker? Yeah, I'm not saying I don't want a female Joker. I'm just saying that if we do get a female Joker, why not just make it Lauren Cohen just to keep it in universe? Well, because she's Martha Wayne, isn't she? So why don't you just set it in the Flashpoint? Because isn't Flashpoint already happening?
Yeah, like that was what I was going to say. I think with Flashpoint, for those of you who don't know, the comic book series Flashpoint, which started the New 52 in 2011, 2010.
Yeah, around that. Yeah, around that time.
The Flash goes back in time to stop his mother from getting killed or to save his mother, something like that. It's been a while since I've read it. And he does one change, and that alters the DC universe, and he goes through these different dimensions and meets these alternative, like Wonder Woman and Aquaman are getting into a war with each other with the Atlanteans and the Amazons.
And he causes a giant time boom, and it changes everything, one of which being Bruce Wayne gets shot instead of Thomas.
Yeah, so I think what Warner Brothers is doing is that they have early drafts for this Flashpoint movie on their desk, and they are saying, okay, what we'll do is that there's a scene.
Did you hear that, Chili? My shoulder just popped. I'm sorry, audience.
I heard something click, but I couldn't quite.
That
tell
was
it
my
a
shoulder. I'm so sorry.
I'm imagining that they've got a script on their desk and there's a scene where there is a lady Joker or a different interpretation of the Joker, and they're thinking this could be a really popular scene, this could be a fan favourite moment, let's put this in pre-production, or at least let's get to the concept phase for a spin-off thing for this, where we can say from you saw the scene in Flashpoint, now get the whole story. I think that's what they're doing, but because the news cycle is operating for comic book movies as the way it does, as in we get these announcements 4 or 5 years in advance and we know the plots even before cameras start rolling, we know about the story now. That is my guess. I have no information to base that off of, but that's the only way this kind of makes logical sense to me, that Warner Brothers would be willing to throw away all of this goodwill after Wonder Woman and potentially a good Justice League movie in order to try and get all of these films on the table. These conflicting films on the table, I should say.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I think it's incredibly odd to. I mean, even talking about if it's Martha Wayne Joker, I'm far more interested in that origin story, because on surface level, a Joker origin story completely, you're ruining the mystique of what makes the Joker, because even in the comic books, they are so reluctant to give us a definitive Joker origin story. I think the only thing fans are ever willing to accept about the Joker is the Killing Joke canon. And even then, that's an Elseworld non-canonical story, technically, right? There are certain canons where they run with that, but I think it's in New 52 where Batman sits on like this chair, and he kind of gets all this knowledge. I think it's like an alien thing, and he asks who the Joker is, and he's like, that's not possible. But we don't hear who it is. Yeah. I think that happened recently, and I think that DC had a chance to do something really cool with this Joker. Like, you could, like, I don't know if you ever read the comic line Death of the Family, which the Joker in that famously has his face cut off. It's a very interesting, very creepy, very unsettling Joker. It's a really nice take on the Suicide Squad and Harley Quinn's relationship with him. So there is room for movement in the Joker world. But I think if you just straight up make it, oh, we're just gonna do a guy who was a cool guy and then he went crazy, now he's a Batman villain. You see what I'm saying? I feel like this is a response to the Venom movie.
See, I think if this was the only Joker film announcement we got this week, I'd be more on board, because then you could say we're going to be getting a younger Batman in the 80s, because even though it's contradicted scene by scene in Batman v Superman...
He's just Casey Affleck.
Yes! Well, no, this is meant to be a Batman who's come out of retirement, even though the newscasters are reporting like they've only just seen him for the very first time. So, like I said, Batman v Superman's a mess. But I'd be interested in seeing maybe a younger Batman in the 80s and the origin of the Joker, or an alternative origin, if you're going to go for the Killing Joke multiple choice route. But then
have you played Arkham Origins, Trillbee?
I haven't. No, I've played.
There's a great Joker origin in that. They essentially do Killing Joke in that, but you play pretty much, I think, two-thirds of the game you're versing Black Mask, and you think it's Black Mask, you think it's Roman Salinas, I think that's his name, and that might be the character from Fast and Furious, but I don't remember. But it turns out, like, two-thirds of the way through that Roman's, like, been tied up somewhere, and you take the mask off and it's actually the Joker. And I think that's a really great way to do that story. I don't know. I feel like that's the... Video games and cartoons always have the best storylines because of these crap films. Anyways, sorry, keep going, Trillbee.
No, but then... Yeah, so then we get a recast Joker. It means we can very, very politely get Jared Leto out of that role, because I'm absolutely astounded he's not been replaced by now. Like when
just yell at it. Just get a shotgun and just take him outside.
No, he's still a guy. Let's not do that.
But my bad. Whoopsie daisy.
I
didn't say that.
It's already happened.
I was joking.
But I was amazed when Suicide Squad had been out on DVD and Blu-ray for about 2 or 3 weeks that we had not heard news that he'd been recast. Because I was thinking, this performance is so biblically terrible, but they want to make money from the DVD and Blu-ray release, so they're going to wait until after they've made that money before they announce the recasting. And yet he has been announced this week that he is going to be coming back in Suicide Squad 2.
I'm going to tweet that.
Well, Jared Leto was biblically bad.
Was biblically terrible. I love it.
He was terrible in Suicide Squad.
He wasn't great, Trillbee, you're right.
He wasn't great. I have literally had Joker-style shits better than him in that role. And by Joker-style, I mean I've had a poop and I've put some lipstick on it to give it a smile.
Wow. Oh, man. Okay, I'm gonna go, man.
He was terrible. Like, I even said in my Suicide Squad review, like, at the bottom... You've got, like, let's say hypothetically, you've got at the bottom of the list Cesar Romero from the 60s, then spacebar, Jared Leto. It is a Razzie, like, sweeping performance.
I think it wouldn't have been as bad if they didn't market him so much, or if they didn't have the stigma of him being like, because in the movie he's like, I'm an idea, I'm an enigma, and apparently, I feel like that's exactly how he was on set. You know what I mean? Like, if sometimes I don't know if they knew the camera was rolling. I don't know if you watched Channel Awesome and Nostalgia Critic and all those guys.
Yeah.
But he did a Suicide Squad review, and they captured Jared Leto's Joker so perfectly in that. In his review, it's so on the nose. It's brilliant.
Yeah, but Jared Leto, he himself was terrible in the film, but it was also a combination of a terrible script, terrible plot, and also clearly his character was edited to hell in the editing room, as in he's given contradictory motivations and scenes and performances based on who was editing that day.
Yeah, I rewatched Dark Knight because Dark Knight was on TV yesterday, and man, is Ledger just unbelievable in that film. I mean, you can pick any scene. You know, I'm debating which scene is better, the interrogation scene or the hospital scene. Like, I don't know which performance is the one that he gets the Oscar for, you know? Because he's so good in that film. Whether it be, you know, the way he talks down to Jim Gordon in the interrogation cell, or, I don't know, the way he somehow convinces Harvey Dent not to shoot him in the face. It's such a good movie. He's so good in it.
I know this is a tangent, but I don't think he does convince Harvey Dent to not shoot him. I think he convinces him to flip the coin, but the Joker looks out.
What do you mean?
Well, as in when he says upset the established order and everything becomes chaos.
Yeah.
And you know the thing about chaos, it's fair. And chance, as in 50-50 chance is fair. That's a callback. And then the gun is to his head. And then Harvey Dent lifts up the coin and says, you live, you die. And he flips the coin round.
Yeah.
So he doesn't convince him to not shoot him, but it's all about... I think the Joker's willing to die in that scene just to prove his point.
That's true. Yeah, just to prove the point. I love... Yeah, because if Harvey Dent kills him, then what's the point? That is true. He's so good in that film.
It's a brilliant scene, and Aaron Eckhart also deserves a lot of credit.
No, he's really... I mean, this is the scene where he wakes up in the hospital is just one of those heartbreaking things I've seen on screen. But Hans Zimmer does a great little kind of like really winging score, and then it's mind-boggling.
We did get a trailer this week, actually. Probably the best Warner Brothers DC news to come out this week. We did get a trailer for Adam West's final Batman film.
Oh, okay.
With William Shatner as Two-Face.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. I'm so excited.
I might
got
watch a trailer for that this week.
We might talk about that in the show. I might check that out if I have the time. I'll add to my list.
It looks exactly how you think it would look. If you liked the last Adam West Batman animated film, this looks right up your alley.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Did you hear about the controversy with Batman and Harley Quinn? Have you heard about this?
No. Remind me.
I think I haven't read too much on it, but apparently there's some objectification with Harley Quinn in the film. I know very little about it. I've heard random sputters, but I don't know. Maybe the audience will tell us in the comments. Tell us in the comments, audience.
Actually, can you tell me that again? You cut out halfway through that sentence.
Apparently there was some objectification with Harley Quinn in the film. I don't know, but then again,
in which film? Sorry,
Batman and Harley Quinn.
Oh, okay, the animated one. Yeah, people are saying it's terrible.
Yeah. I have also heard that it's terrible. I feel like we've gotten a lot of Batman films in like the last 4 years.
Yeah,
we got Court of Owls, we got Batman versus Robin, and we got a lot of films. I don't know.
It seems like they've not been that good, but I have a feeling last year when the Killing Joke animated film came out, Warner Brothers Animation said, "Oh, we can't possibly mess up the Joker's origin any more than we already did." Then Warner Brothers says, "Hold my beer."
I saw that tweet you did, Trillbee.
I'm nothing but a recycled joke.
It's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble. Okay. Well, speaking of tragedy in the world, Tobe Hooper passed away yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. Tobe Hooper, I believe is the director of Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist from the 1980s, correct? That's him. And
also Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
He's basically the guy who brought the slasher genre into the mainstream. Because while we do attribute that to we have the Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, walking through those doors, Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre are the one who opened them in the first place. Yeah,
because Chainsaw Massacre is what, 76?
74.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then Halloween was 4 years later in 78. Yeah, I mean, I've never finished the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, only because Leatherface genuinely gives me the shivers like every time. I can barely look at the guy without getting terrified. So, I mean, he really did up. The original Poltergeist, though, is a lot of fun. And I mean, I know there's a conspiracy that Spielberg essentially ghost directed the film, and Hooper was more the producer role than Spielberg was. I mean, even down to the fact that in the mirror scene where we see hands like pick away at the guy's face, that's Spielberg's hands.
Oh, freaky.
Did you know
I didn't know that was Spielberg's
you didn't
hands.
know that?
No.
Yeah, those are Spielberg's hands. Fun fact. But yeah, I think it's a shame that we forget that how influential horror films are on filmmakers today, whether it be Kubrick in The Shining and how they affect Christopher Nolan, or you know, because a lot of great filmmakers start out doing horror films. You know, I feel like Jordan Peele is going to be one of those Oscar-winning directors that every time they make a movie, they're going to be fantastic. And he started with Get Out, so yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there are so many filmmakers who are still working today whose work is influenced by Tobe Hooper, like Ridley Scott, who based Alien off of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a way. He was influenced by that film, at least.
Yeah.
You got Wes Craven, Alexander Aja. Because he brought horror like into completely new and twisted places in the 1970s, and these are effects that we're still feeling today. He's also just got a really interesting personal life as well. Like a few months ago, he was attacked by his younger ex-girlfriend, and they had to have a restraining order. This was like 3-4 months ago.
Jesus.
But yeah, the current.
Do we know what he died from?
Natural causes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just age of 74.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, it'll get him. He lived through the 70s. What can we say?
He's after making Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he's clearly seen some messed up stuff that might take its toll on the brain. But we know that there's new Texas Chainsaw Massacre films coming out. There's even the new Leatherface film coming out in a couple of months' time.
Did we talk about the Jigsaw trailer last week?
No.
Did you watch it?
I did watch it because I am kind of wedded to that franchise.
Yeah.
It looked alright. It's one of those things that it has to prove its existence to me while watching it. It's not something I can get hyped for in a trailer. I'm
reading things that are different than what I saw in the trailer. Like, I've read interviews with the filmmaker, and Tobin Bell talked about the film, about how it's kind of going back. It's leaning less on how the gore, which was kind of the staple of the franchise. Even though the first film isn't that gory, it's more implied violence because they didn't have the budget to show a lot of stuff. Yeah. And so apparently they're leaning more towards that, which excites me. But yet in the trailer, they seem to be being like, look at the gore, it's gore, all the blood and violence. But I don't know. Yeah. So I'm interested though. That reminds me, it's out in a week. It comes out in a week. Yes. And they've shown it to people, and people are loving it.
Yeah, the first reviews have been incredibly good.
I'm so excited. Trillbee, I cannot wait to talk about it. I'm so happy.
But yeah, the Jigsaw trailer, it looked like it was trying to go for a more mainstream audience who might not know the intensely dense and contradictory mythology of the Saw films.
And how how John Kramer somehow died and not died, and how he swallowed a thing that kept him alive, and then he had to be... I actually had a conversation with someone like a week or two ago, and we were talking about the Saw films, and they said, didn't he die in the last one? Didn't they do 7 of them? I was like, yeah, they did do 7. He died in the 3rd one. Yeah, isn't the plot
they just
of
had
Saw
no idea
3?
how this worked.
Is that this plot of Saw 3? Is that it's the doctor that couldn't save, and then what's his face comes back at the end of 7.
So the 3rd one
from the very first one.
In the 3rd one, Jigsaw brings in a brain surgeon to give him to help his brain tumor in order to so he can survive long enough to see this final game come to its conclusion, and then he dies at the end of the 3rd one when he gets his throat slashed by a saw, and then the 4th film opens with his autopsy, and then it turns out that the 4th and the 3rd films were taking place at the exact same time, and then it's the 5th film where it takes place after his death.
I like Saw 5. No, never mind. I like Saw 6. Saw 6 I like that one.
I think 5 is the weakest one, if I remember. Yeah. They all kind of blend into one.
7's pretty trash.
7 is a good 3D schlock fest.
Yeah, that's true. That was around the time where 3D was like, look at the 3D. I think they shot it in 3D, which was pretty nice. But the first film, directed by James Wan, starring Leigh Whannell, and written by him as well. I think that one is an actual good horror flick. If you guys want to watch good horror from the watch on Halloween, I don't want to give away the twist for those that haven't seen it, but the last 90 seconds of the film, it's like Usual Suspects, where you're just like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Where you have to...
I'd say that the first 3 films are legitimately good horror films, and for 4 till 7, your mileage will vary depending on your own tolerance for the series.
Well, I think... Because I haven't seen them all in probably 2 years, because my sisters love them too. But, like, 3 I like, because it feels different than the others, but 2 just feels like a retry of the first one with the whole cop thing, you know? I don't know, because I feel like maybe because Donnie Wahlberg's not a very talented actor, but then again, who is in those films? But 6 is fun. 6 is a lot of fun.
But speaking of James Wan and films, because Saw was based off of a short film that he made, and then it got expanded to a feature. I know we haven't talked about this previously. This is just something I remembered. It was something we probably should have talked about last week if we were, but there was a Conjuring short film contest. And about 10 days ago, the winner was announced. And the parameters for the contest was that David F. Sandberg, who is the director of Annabelle Creation...
and Lights Out,
Yes, him and James Wan came together to host this competition where they tasked short filmmakers to make a movie that was no longer than 2 minutes that had to feel like it could exist in the Conjuring universe. And the winner of that was announced, and the film is called The Nurse, directed by Julian Terry. You can watch The Nurse on YouTube. It's 2 minutes long, freaky as hell, feels like it does exist in the Conjuring universe. It was filmed in 4 days. Looks really good. It feels like it could be like in an Annabelle or The Nun or a Conjuring type spin-off film. And basically, because he won this competition, he wins like a cash prize of like $50, and if they make the film, he gets another $50, which feels like a terrible prize. However, according to the comment section of this Nurse video, he's saying that on the day he won the competition, he got like 3 calls from movie executives. So he's going to be just fine. But I just thought like that was a pretty cool parallel.
Yeah, well, the same thing happened with like James Wan. Like I said, David F. Sandberg was the same way. He made that Lights Out short, which is fantastic, by the way. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen the Lights Out short, it's essentially the opening scene of Lights Out, but I think it's done maybe slightly better. Only and there's videos on why it works better, and I think it's because you feel more connected with the person, because it takes place in a house.
Yeah, it's a domesticated environment, which makes it more effective. But the Lights Out feature does have a lot of fun with mannequins. I'll say no more.
Yes.
If you haven't watched it, but
that opening scene is crazy in that movie. It may be the best scene of the film. I don't know if you saw Lights Out, but
I saw it this week because I wanted to study how to do horror lighting indoors when there's no natural light.
Yeah,
I've been doing a lot of homework this week, and I watched Lights Out, but there was surprisingly I didn't get what I was after in terms of the lighting. Okay. Which
not even like the whole cell phone thing.
No, I did. It just wasn't relevant to me.
Okay,
but I liked it a lot. Yeah. It was a really good horror film. But in terms
it's a film that I think you watch with a few friends in the room, and you're just having a blast. That's one of the best movie going theater experience I've ever had, is watching Lights Out. And just especially if you're thinking of the boyfriend at the third act. The car lights. I mean, everything in that was just such a thrill ride.
Really cleverly done as well.
Really
I love
creative.
it when he just drops on the floor.
Yes, it's awesome. And like, it's such a simple idea, too. I really enjoy that film, which is why I still need to see Annabelle, because apparently that's good, too. And I don't... Yeah.
But yeah, Julian Terry, who won this contest, he got an all-expenses-paid trip to Hollywood, and he gets a personal meeting with New Line Cinema executives.
Okay.
So, yeah, congratulations to him, and check out The Nurse. 2 minutes long, freaky as hell.
I'll definitely check that out, and I'll talk about it next week after I see it. Okay, I think that's all the news stories I have here.
Yeah, it was very DC centric this week, wasn't it?
If anybody's out there that's a DC fan, so am I. We praised Wonder Woman earlier, so please don't come and attack us. I'm sure if there's Marvel news...
Sorry, I just butchered that.
Okay. Alright, Trillbee. This is the... Let's start this up real quick. Alright, Trillbee, this is the homework portion of the show in which we have movies we were either assigned to see or just saw on our own. I didn't see much. Actually, I watched a playthrough of Until Dawn. Have you heard of this? This video game?
Isn't that the horror story-driven game where...
Yeah, the slasher game, yeah.
Yeah, I'm told that the more you know about horror films, the better you'll do at the game, so you can avoid the cliche. It's like, don't run up the stairs, don't hide under the bed, and stuff like that.
I think the more you realize that you're in a horror movie, like the more common sense you have. Because I mean, even going from the very opening scene of like, do I run or do I hide? Because sometimes being cliche helps you in the game. Is this from what I've seen and what I've played? Like there'll be sections of, oh, do you want to keep running down this hallway where you can see the exit door, or do you hide? And you should probably hide because the guy chasing you is faster than you. No, there are things like that really make the game fun. But that's all I really did this week because I will tell you this, Trillbee. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. I have had to rewrite a script for UIL. UIL is a competition we do at my school in Texas, and we have a film contest. And I'm in that class for the film this year. And I gave my teacher my UIL film script, and I won't give names, obviously, but she essentially ripped it to shreds. And so I spent the last week attempting to either rewrite it or just start over. And I have had the worst case of writer's block. I feel like J.K. Rowling when she was doing Harry Potter 2. Just like, my mind has just been warped and just been probed. And I've sat for my laptop and I banged my head against the table. It was out of frustration. That's pretty much all I did this week. So I'll leave this one to you, buddy.
Okay. I was going to watch all of The Defenders. Didn't happen.
Okay.
But
did you start it at least?
I did not start it. But
okay.
You may like this though. There was because I was gonna go pick up my partner from work, and I was like, I'll watch an episode of The Defenders. Oh, it's 40 minutes long. Okay, I've only got like 20 minutes before I need to go. What's 20 minutes and is on Netflix that I've been meaning to watch but haven't?
Oh my god, yes.
I watched some Rick and Morty.
Ah!
I'm halfway through series 1.
Oh my god, we gotta go, Morty! You got your way up there, Morty! You got your way up inside your buckle, Morty!
I need those seeds, Morty!
Seeds! It's got no charge left, Morty! It's got no charge left! Oh, so what episode did you leave out on?
I'm like 3 or 4 episodes in, so I'm maybe not halfway. Okay. Me Seeks and Destroy. That's have
you finished Me Seeks and Destroy?
Or
have you started it?
I think I started it.
Okay.
Can't exactly remember.
Then I won't talk about that episode then, because that's a good episode. Okay, so tell me what you think then, Trillbee.
It's a lot more violent than I thought it would be.
Yes, it's very violent.
It was really, really fun.
It's really funny. Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that I kind of blew my mind when I realized that Rick and Morty are voiced by the same guy.
Yeah, Justin Roiland, yes.
Yeah.
And Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland are the guys that make the show, yeah.
Especially since the two leads have such a natural back and forth with each other, where you can kind of imagine these two presences in the recording booth who are reacting to each other, even if Morty is just going, "Oh geez, Rick, oh geez, oh."
Well, the best part about the show is that I think the best way to describe it is it's Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland working through their own existential crises. Like, there are the times where, and I won't give any spoilers specific, but there'll be times where the show goes really dark for no reason. And especially, like, you'll watch interviews, like, behind the scenes on Adult Swim, and they were recording an episode for season 3, and Justin Roiland got really drunk, because he'll oftentimes drink beer for the one voicing Rick. And one time he got, like, shots of tequila, and, like, by the 5th shot, he was like, "Why do we live? What's up with life? Why don't we just all go away? What's the point of all this?" And he gets really, like, existential for no reason. And you can tell, like, they're just working through their issues through this really creative and inventive science fiction show. I think one of my favorite gags in the first few episodes is when the dog wakes up Summer. And he goes,
Where are my balls?
Where are my testicles, Summer?
Where did they go, Summer?
And, like, Jerry pees on the thing, and he just rubs his nose at it. Bad dog. Bad dog. I love that show so much.
See, it's really funny. Like, you can kind of tell when Rick puts the intelligence enhancement device on Snuggles. Forget his name. Snuffles. Sorry. Yeah. You can kind of tell where the plot's going to go. But the way that it does evolve is still interesting and clever and feels really novel.
They'll do an episode on Planet of the Apes and Inception in the same episode, which is nice.
Yes, and even when they come across Scary Terry, who's obviously a Freddy Krueger ripoff, they're like, "Who's that?" Clearly, some public domain '80s character we're allowed to use
with swords for claws instead of knives.
It's like, "Oh, geez, Rick. I wonder what gives Scary Terry nightmares." And he goes inside, and it's just at school.
It's just high school. Oh no, I'm not wearing any pants. Or like, it's like they say we can't run and we can't hide, but I mean, we never tried hiding, and if worst case, we're back to running. I love that so much.
And then Scary Terry's just in the garden, and he just lifts up a trash can, like, you can run, but you can't hide! Oh, okay. And he just kind of keeps on looking. It's really funny.
Yeah, and like he has like a family. It's like out there, not in here. It's wonderful. It's really like he just have this domestic issue with his wife. Episode 3, I think, is a lot of fun too. Where they essentially just do Jurassic Park.
And then all of a sudden, John Oliver shows up, and I recognize his voice immediately.
Yeah, John Oliver shows up as Dr. Bloom. I think this might have been before his show. It might be, or his show might have just gotten started. But it's really, this show's a lot of fun, and I think in my opinion, what makes the show so great is because it manages to balance clever satire on certain things with really funny jokes. I mean, I'm not one for poop jokes, but when he tells Morty, "You crapped your pants, Morty," and it was everywhere. I mean, I got everywhere. I mean, I got some on my thumb, Morty. A piece fell on my. It was awful. I thought it was perfect.
And it's you see a lot of like YouTube comment sections where people seem to idolize Rick and like think of Rick as like this perfect character who they need to aspire to be, and it feels like a Fight Club situation where it's these young guys who have completely missed the point.
Yeah, well, I think Rick idealizes a certain lifestyle that people can get behind of not caring about anything around you because you realize life kind of doesn't have meaning when you realize that there are infinite universes, and I don't know if you've gotten that far, but there are infinite universes.
Oh yeah, it's kind of implied from the point I'm at so far, but when you get shows which have like really, really great dialogue, that's really funny and witty and clever and multi-layered, or you have incredibly inventive universes and characters, designs and stuff like that. But this seems to have both.
They're bureaucrats, Morty. I don't trust them.
They're robots. You can do it. Oh no, he's lost his leg. Go ring up his wife and child.
Yeah, Glenn's bleeding to death. Call his wife and family. Like he's coughing up blood.
No, they're not robots. They're bureaucrats. They're the same thing.
I don't trust them. Oh, it's perfect.
But
it's really fun.
Like, I think one of my favourite moments is in the pilot when Morty's given some anti-gravity boots or something so he can safely walk off this cliff. You forgot to turn him on, Rick. You forgot to turn him on, Morty. Morty, you forgot to turn him on.
I love that he walks up like, you gotta turn them on first, Morty. You gotta turn them on. It's great. It's a good line. And then leads
to him, these gags seem to lead seamlessly into each other, so... I keep on getting Rick and Morty's name mixed up for some reason, but so Morty's fallen off the cliff and has broken his leg, so Rick has to go to another dimension to get this serum, which immediately fixes his legs, and then it goes on this tyrant of him talking about this other universe where they somehow stopped aging, so he was the only old person there, so he was like a celebrity, and he had sex with a lot of women, and he spent so much time there that he's lost batteries for this dimension transport, so he's got to go through customs, which means he's got to put these mega seeds up his butt.
Oh my god, it's perfect.
It's really...
I've done it too many times, Morty. They'll just fall out, but you're still taut and malleable. I love it.
It's so clever. And this is just like the brainchild of a series of two people, and it feels like I'm sure maybe in future they get more writers and a writers' room approach or something. But this just feels like it feels like this is a massive collaborative project. It feels like it has the polish of that. But Series 1 at least is for the most part Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland.
Yeah,
and that's really admirable.
What is it even pilot like? What new machine? Machine like it detects things all the way up the butt. I loved it. I love that. It's like it's got this new machine. Run, Morty. You're right. The show does have a lot of gags. The second episode probably is one of my favorites from the first season, just because of how inventive it is and how it goes in two completely different directions and somehow manages to combine them. You know, like how how whether it parodises and satires Inception, where I think he talks about it's like if it's dumb and confusing, Morty, then so is everyone's favorite movie. I love lines like those, or how each of them have the kick of how you can just die in the dream and it just wakes you up, even though that's not how it works in Inception. Yeah, just moments like that really make me smile.
And there's some moments that on paper just should not be funny, but because of the voice acting and the context, they're given a whole new life. Like in Anatomy Park, Morty's going around all of these rides. He's like, Pirates of the Pancreas. Has you got an issue with that one? I'm just saying them in the order that I see them. I'm sorry, Morty. I got a little pushback from that idea. That was my brainchild, and I got a little defensive.
Oh, and there's no sugarcoating. The pirates are really rapey. I don't know why that line resonates with me so much. It just feels like such a Rick line to say. But yeah, this season, I think the second season definitely expands the entire world. And as opposed to parodying movies like much of the first season does, the second season kind of really more parodizes ideas and like sci-fi concepts. Things like, I don't give too much spoilers, but what would happen if they land on a planet that just happens to have the purge? In certain things like that, or what would happen if Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but memories, and then by the time you get to season 3, which I'm sure you will eventually, it's far more. They take the time to sit back and develop who these characters are, and it may not necessarily be as funny, though I think it is, but it's definitely easily my favorite season just because you can tell that they now have the time to explore who these people are as characters, and it adds so much more depth to the show. But the first season, I think, is really funny. I can't wait to get to like Twilight Zone episode. I'm so excited.
Well, series 3, we don't really have Adult Swim in the UK, but as the episodes are being broadcast, they're being put on our Netflix.
Yeah.
So I have no excuse to not check it all out now. But I'm so glad I started it. I'm not going to try and be like, I've seen 3-4 episodes. I'm the biggest fan ever. I'm not at that point or anything. But it's something I'm really enjoying, and I can't wait to just check out more of it and share this journey with you, Trey.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and especially season 2 is one of the funniest gags I've ever seen in TV ever. So excited.
One reason that the show has got such a cult following as well, though, is because I watched one like Rick and Morty clip on YouTube, and it was like a promotional thing that they did for Alien Covenant, where they land on the ship from the very first Alien movie, and the facehugger goes onto Rick's face, but it dies because of the amount of drugs and alcohol that he's got in his system. And it's just like a 50-second thing, really funny. And then as soon as I watch that one clip, it's now all over my YouTube suggestions.
Oh, yeah,
it's all over my recommendeds now. So no wonder. Like, I'm just seeing all these clips and funny titles and stuff.
There's a great Simpsons thing they did where...
Wasn't it the longest couch gag ever?
It might have been, but they did it. It was a couch gag for you guys that don't know, listeners. It's essentially just... It's what happens when Rick and Morty comes in. They essentially just kill the Simpsons accidentally. They crash into the living room. They turn them all into yellow paste, and it's a really funny sketch. And it's a great mixture of both styles of humor because it's not too. It has that shocking humor that Rick and Morty will tend to have sometimes, but it doesn't go too Adult Swim for Fox. It's perfect balance.
Yeah. But the pilot is one of the best pilots I've seen for an animated series in a long time, because it's bookended by some really dark relationship drama between Rick and Morty, because it opens with Rick drunkenly driving the spaceship
about to explode the planet. It's great.
Yeah, but then it also ends with him tricking, like, spoilers. It ends with him tricking Morty's parents into convincing them to allow him to go on more adventures. And it's just him drunkenly, nonsensically rambling about all the adventures they're going to go on as Morty is
we're gonna go on more adventures, mate.
So many adventures.
More seeds.
We're going to get more seeds. Going to get so many adventures. We're going to get rickandmorty.com, rickandmortyadventures.com.
Meanwhile, he's having like a seizure on the floor.
Yeah, it's
I remember first
grim.
time I saw an episode, I was in tears from laughter. Oh man, I can't. That show really. You can thank Weekly Planet mentioned. You can thank Sunday Movies for that recommendation, by the way, because I was listening to the podcast and he was talking about how it's so weird and he loves it. I'm like, I'll give it a shot because I like Gravity Falls, and Justin Roiland worked on that show as well. And it's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, so I want to watch footage of I forget his name, who he voices both of them, Rick and Morty.
Justin Roiland, yeah.
Yeah, I want to see footage of him in the recording booth, because there is that footage on YouTube, but I don't want to watch any in case I get some gags spoiled for me.
You can watch the one, I think it's a drunk voice acting training, whatever. You can, that one's not a spoiler, because it's essentially just him annoying everyone, like the script supervisors and whatnot, because they've only gone through like 12 lines in 3 hours, because he's so drunk, and it's all frustration.
Yeah, drunk Rick method acting.
Yeah, that's one. That's not spoilerific. It is. In fact, they released that before they released the third season.
Okay.
But the episode that he's getting drunk for is the way they tackle the Avengers. It's beautiful. Okay, so.
But yeah,
I can't wait for you to catch
I've seen
up.
a few clips before, but this is the first time I've watched some full episodes, and there's no going back now.
Yeah, I mean, I recently read someone recently asked a question, not on the listener questions, but someone asked, I read one like, what's your favorite episode of any TV show ever? And my mind instantly went to season 2 of Rick and Morty. So, yeah, but we'll get to that when you get to that, Trillbee. Did you see anything else?
I saw Hush, which you have been telling me to watch for
a year.
Feels like forever. Yeah,
yeah, it's like a year and a half. Okay.
Because like I said, this week I've been watching some horror films in order to find out how to do lighting indoors at night without when there's no artificial light source that's present in the room.
Let's go full spoilers for Hush.
Okay, I'll give you pre-spoiler stuff in like a minute, for like a minute, and then we can go spoilers. But yeah, Hush that's the real deal. That's really good. I think it does. It's a little bit too wedded to the horror formula. Like, there's a lot of setup. Like, oh, this is how she's going to take out the guy because the camera lingers on this prop or lingers on this scene for way longer than it needs to.
But I do think you forget about it.
Oh,
I don't know.
Hashtag never forget.
Yeah. Well, because you see it like the first like 2 minutes of the movie. You know, and then they kind of I don't know, maybe they cut back to it, but I guess I forgot about it.
Oh, it's just the way the camera lingers. Yeah. It's sort of like there's even some dedicated shots to them putting certain items, certain props somewhere. So it's like this will be important later, as opposed to maybe just doing it in the same shot and communicating extra stuff. But that's in the grand scheme, it's a nitpick because this is a really good horror film.
Mike Flanagan's very talented. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I first saw. I was introduced to Mike Flanagan through Oculus, which was released in 2013, which is the Karen Gillan and Brendan Thwaites horror film with the mirrors. It's a really
Katie Sackhoff's in it too, isn't she?
Yes, she is. Yes, and
she was recently added to something. What was it? Was it Black Mirror or The Flash? One of the two.
Oh, we did get a Black Mirror Series 4 trailer this week.
I didn't watch it. I don't want to. When's it? When is it out? At least, do we know?
There was no date on the trailer.
Oh damn. Okay. I know the episodes. The episode, like the episodes were announced. Have you seen 30 Days of Night?
I don't think I have. No.
It's a really fun and terrifying vampire flick from David Slade, who also did Hard Candy with Ellen Page and Patrick Wilson, and then did the best Twilight movie, Eclipse. He's doing an episode of Black Mirror. Just random thought I thought I'd throw in there. So, but anyways.
But for Hush, it's really centered on the lead performance by Katie Siegel, I should say, who co-wrote the film and is also the wife of Mike Flanagan.
I think didn't she help? She's an editor, isn't she? Well, I think she said she does editing work.
I'm not sure. Maybe she does. That's just not. Something
she makes a brief appearance in Ouija Origin of Evil. She's in the opening scene of the film, which is a good film, by the way. If you guys haven't seen Ouija 2 Origin of Evil, it's really good. I recommend checking it out.
Do not watch Ouija. It is
not the first one. The second one. The second one's good.
But yeah, it's really well filmed. I love the sound design in it. I think it's really clever. The location is brilliant as well. How it's this... The plot is that there's this woman called Maddie who is deaf and also cannot talk. She lost her speech and her hearing when she was a teenager after surgery went wrong. And she's got these two neighbours, but she lives mostly as a recluse in the middle of the forest. And one night, this guy in a mask starts trying to stalk her and kill her. And the fact that she is deaf is naturally a massive hindrance, but it's also something that this guy takes great pleasure in taunting and teasing her. Yeah. And it's one thing that really kind of puts Hush over the edge in a way, that this guy is clearly just a sadistic prick. He's played by...
John Gallagher
Jr. Who's Emmett in 10 Cloverfield Lane.
And he's also in the show on HBO called The Newsroom from Aaron Sorkin. Anybody that doesn't know.
Yes.
I don't know if you ever saw The Newsroom, Trillbee.
I saw Series 1. I need to watch more because I liked it a lot.
Series 2, I'll go by what you call it, Series 2 of The Newsroom is some of the best television ever. Because it might as well be... It's very Empire Strikes Back, but I think it's fantastic. And he's good in that shape. If you guys haven't seen The Newsroom, it's on HBO. You can binge it all if you have HBO. God, it's such a good show. Aaron Sorkin. Did you see the trailer for Molly's Game? We'll get back to Hush in a second, guys. Did you?
I did it.
Because we didn't talk about it last week, because it came out before we did the podcast last week. We didn't talk about it.
It did look good, yeah. I'm interested in seeing the true story, but it does feel like Aaron Sorkin the movie, and I'm wondering if it will have its own identity outside of that.
I'm worried that because it's his first time directing the film. That's the only thing that concerns me, because I feel like the reason that his films have always worked is because you have like a Fincher or a Boyle or a Bennett Miller, or competent filmmakers like in The West Wing or The Newsroom, if you will, kind of working with him in tangent to you have really creative filmmaking along with clever and really good writing to make this kind of brilliant baby called a good film. But if it's just him, I'm worried that because as a writer, it's a different kind of job being on set as opposed to directing a film, and the film feels, maybe it's just maybe it's just the trailer, but the film feels very flat to me. And not to mention, I love Jessica Chastain. She appears to be struggling delivering some of this dialogue. I don't know why. It just feels, something about her feels off in the role.
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because Aaron Sorkin, his dialogue is so precise that it feels like he might be on set helping the actors when it's being filmed anyway. Yeah. So he's probably used to that aspect of directing, and if he surrounds himself with a good enough director of photography and a good camera team, he might still be able to like coast on them in order to make inventive shots or make it visually interesting. Yeah. But the proof will be when the film comes out.
Is Michael Cera playing the Tobey Maguire character?
I think Michael Cera's playing himself.
Okay. Because I believe Tobey Maguire is in the film, or he's in the story. Like he's famously a part of this. I believe it was Tobey Maguire, and he was like super sleazy about it and whatnot. So I feel like because Michael Cera is that character, maybe they're replacing Michael Cera Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, maybe they're just going to make him Tobey Maguire, but he'll be played by Michael Cera, and Michael Cera will be Tobey Maguire, but not by name. That's
Tobey
confusing.
Maguire will show up as Uncle Ben, because my theory still stands. There's a great picture going around of it's like they photoshopped that scene in the original Spider-Man trilogy when it's like they're in the car and the background's all white, and it's like Tom Holland's face, and then Tobey Maguire's face is Uncle Ben. I don't know, that makes me smile. But anyways, we should probably get back to Hush. My bad.
Yeah. So let's try not to do more tangents. But yeah, Hush. It's really well structured. The location's inspired through like all of the uses of the windows. It's really well filmed. It's terrifying. It's high concept horror in a way. It's like in that there's hardly any budget, but it's able to get by on a really solid base premise. And should we go full spoilers now?
Yeah, sure.
But basically, I give it 4 stars out of 5, 8 out of 10.
That's not very far from what I give it. I'm like an 8.5, so we're not that far off. I found myself, sorry, tap my table. I found myself really enjoying the film pretty much the entire way through.
Yeah, it's tense as hell.
I tried showing it to my girlfriend,
reaction.
And she got bored. Yeah, there was a point of going across where I was like, Jesus Christ. I showed it to my girlfriend, she got bored. Yeah. So then we started watching Riverdale.
Oh, that sounds much better.
Oh yeah, it was such a blast. Such a wonderful time.
But yeah, there were just some moments when the killer uses her friend to like knock on the window.
Oh yeah.
Like that mask that he wears is a really legitimately creepy mask, and I kind of wish he wore it for more of the film.
Yeah, that's probably one of my biggest negatives is the fact that he takes off maybe 20 minutes after she meets him. Yeah. Yeah, because she wants to use as leverage that she's not seen his face, so she can't really describe him to the police if she tries to call them. So in like a power move, he takes off the mask at the window and says, "Yeah, you've seen my face now." And I feel like he should have put it back on, and then maybe towards the end she's able to tear it off him, or like when there's a scene where one of her neighbours comes over to investigate, he could take it off then. But because that's a creepy mask, and I love the slight smile, which seems to imply just this base level of smugness from the guy. It's a really well designed, well fitting mask, and the guy John Gallagher Jr. He's an absolute scumbag in this film in a good way. I love the best villains are villains that you love to hate, and I loved to hate this guy.
It's and Katie Siegel's terrific as well. I have no idea if she actually is deaf, but
no, I don't think she is because she talks in Ouija too.
No, she's convincing as hell.
Yeah, if she is deaf, then she does a great job with her speech therapy. It's very good on her. But I believe she's if not, then sorry, I was just on IMDb looking up something. Did you know that Hitman's Bodyguard's been #1 at the weekend for 2 weekends in a row?
Yeah,
I didn't mean to do a random tangent. Is no one going to the movies this week?
Well, we'll talk about this more when it comes to this past summer. But why is there nothing big being released in August? This is just money Hollywood is leaving on the table.
That's odd. That's really odd. Yeah, because I mean, this was what was it last year? It was Suicide Squad. And year before, I don't know if it was 2015, but I know a couple years ago it was Guardians. Guardians
and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1.
And those movies cleaned up into like August and September before the big kind of Oscar movies came out. Those movies cleaned up.
Yeah, summer has been so front-loaded.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Was that all you saw, Charlie?
Yeah, we need more movies like Hush coming out in August.
Well, it went. I don't know if it came out in theaters, but it came to Netflix like very quickly.
I think that domestically they had a brief theatrical run, but internationally they had a deal with Netflix. That's how it got released in the UK. I don't even think it's on DVD in the UK.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know if it's on DVD here, but I know. I heard about it, and then I didn't even watch the trailer. I just kind of saw it on Netflix, and I know my mom, funnily enough, who never watches horror movies, was like, "Oh, sorry, I hit my laptop." My mom, who never watches horror movies, was like, "Oh, you should watch this one. It's not that scary. It's kind of thrilling." I'm like, "Oh, I'll check it out then," because if she liked it, maybe that means it was good, and it was so well done. Mike Flanagan he's on my list of people to always look out for when he does a film.
But yeah, Hush has got no home media release outside from Netflix in the UK, which is a shame because I'd love to see some behind the scenes stuff. But
me too.
But getting back to what I was saying earlier, there's a whole scene dedicated to the smoke alarm, which it's kind of important that you do need to establish that. But then when you've got like the corkscrew, the corkscrew is by the door. We're going to linger on this for a very long time. We're going to dedicate an entire shot to the neighbor putting the phone in her back pocket. And even though Maddie's not even in the scene, she's not even able to see it. She flashbacks to that shot, like. Okay, this is. I know this is slightly nitpicking, but I feel like we, as an audience, we maybe have a bit more intelligence and are able to pick up the fact that there is a corkscrew by the door, or that I don't know. It just feels like it could be maybe better established, and these things could be set up a bit more subtly, because it's in those moments when you are reminded that you are watching a crafted film, as in. This is the setup for something later on, as opposed to something organic that your brain clocks, but you're not meant to think about it.
Yes, I do respect the film for having a main character that's not a complete idiot, and I think that's done out of necessity, because much like Alien, which I feel like this one was probably a big influence on this film. Alien, because you have a character that you can't kill her off. You don't have she can't be cannon fodder. She has to be there, and she has to be present. She has to survive. So you either make the killer a complete idiot, or you make the character smart. And I think there's a great scene when she tries something and then she gets killed. And you're like, whoa, movie's over. All right, she tried her best, I guess. And then it flashes back. It's like, oh wait, I can't do that. And I do find it odd that she starts talking, but I can get past that. I think it would have been better if they just kind of showed her doing all this stuff which I think they still do show her trying these different options, but she starts talking, starts talking to herself mentally, and you hear her voice, and it kind of, I don't know, it took me out of it for a second, but I know I enjoyed that aspect.
I get what you're saying, because early on when she's trying to write her book, she does have this self-doubt and these voices in her head which tell her to give up, to try something else, to try this different thing. So that is the setup for that later on. But then when when these voices in her head are talking again, when she's trying to find out how to escape, she's literally talking to herself, as in there is another her in the room that she's trying to talk to or interacting with. I think you don't need that other person in the room. I think those voices are enough.
I think Mike Flanagan did a good enough job with the visual storytelling at that point that you don't need someone literally talking to the audience. I felt like I was being talked down to almost.
Yeah, and I liked Wait, what did I like? There was
What did I like about the film?
What it was alright. What did I like? No, she
Whether it
did
was so simple.
she did make some dumb mistakes. She did make, like, when the last time she goes outside before the very end of the film to shoot him, and then she drops the arrow and she stupidly goes back for it and gets her hand broken. Mm-hmm. That was a moment where I thought, that's dumb, you should not have done that. But
there is a great with that. Speaking of that crossbow, when she first gets it and tries to use it, I thought that was great.
Oh yeah,
like, she can't load it. Yeah, and then the guy looks at me, he's like, "Oh, harder than it looks, huh?" And I thought that was a really nice moment of, like, yeah, you wouldn't know how to load a crossbow if you've never used one. I'd imagine it would hurt you. That's why you wear gloves.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you see someone do it, but the physical effort that it takes, and
yeah, because if you try drawing an arrow, or, like, it's like, even if you use a regular bow, it's not easy.
Yeah,
and it can hurt you.
You have to develop a knack for it.
Yeah,
and yeah, there was some. There were some moments where she was really smart, but it still backfired. But there was some really good visual storytelling in there, like how the crossbow itself has got marks on it, like, which implies that this guy has killed before. As in, like, this is, like, I think he's got like 13 checks on it, which implies 13 people he's previously killed. So this is a guy who, like, that alone kind of tells a story about this guy, and also just his like his buzzed haircut and his presence, and, like, this is a guy who, this is a hobby for this guy, a really dedicated hobby. This is not a one-off occurrence.
Yeah, he's not an idiot. He slashes the tires and all that. I mean, it's the moment he slashed the tires, I was like, okay, so either they're both dying or he has to die, because there's no way she's going to be able to run away from this guy because he knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And I genuinely thought that they would both die. I didn't think she'd get away at the end, but she does, which is nice. Unless she's hallucinating the cops. But she calls the cops, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does at the very end.
Yeah.
But it's a really cleverly self-contained film in that it sets up its own established laws and its own set of rules, and it does stick to them, unlike, say, It Follows, where you've got where he's able to sneak in because she's deaf, and he's able to take the phone away. He's able to turn off the power, which turns off the Wi-Fi, which means that she can't communicate with a laptop or through FaceTime and stuff like that. It's able to set up its own parameters, and it makes the most of those parameters in a really logical and clever way.
Yeah. Speaking of It Follows, we watched It Follows in Chicago because Christian had never seen it. Man, it's awful. It's genuinely terrible. It's
something I wish I loved. I actually loved.
A lot of people still dig that film. I don't get it. Guys, I've tried like twice now. I don't get it. Like, even Christian, like, who had never seen it, was like, this is not good. It's competently shot. There's some creative choices in there, the story, but all the weird expositional dialogue, all those strange performances, the weird character moments that just kind of come out of nowhere, and then not to mention you break your convention of rules. Like, if it can break windows and climb stairs, why is it on the roof? Why is it on the roof?
And it's gonna take the form of something to get really close to you. So we're gonna be an 8-foot tall man with no eyes. This thing is going to be walking towards you completely, except the one time it stood completely still on a roof.
There's a few good moments in the film. There's one where she opens the door and it's behind her and it kind of emerges from the shadows. That was a pretty good scare. And there's a I think it's in they're in a car and they're talking and it's a crowd of people and, like, one is slowly walking towards them the entire time and they never acknowledge it. But I think that was I thought that was those are the moments that I think really has the film work, and the film ends with something following them. So you can tell that they clearly, there was effort put in the film. Yeah. But I just think the director was like, oh, wouldn't this be cool if they did this? Wouldn't this be cool if they did this? And I don't know if he understands how people work. I genuinely believe that, because go back and watch the movie and just listen to how the characters interact with each other. People don't talk like that. I don't know. It's really strange.
It's trying to engineer scares so much that it breaks its own rules. Like, there's also like one of the guises that the creature takes is when it's passed on to one of the lead's friends. One of the disguises it takes is of the person it is currently trying to kill.
Yep.
Like, where's the logic here? Movies like It Follows are why I have trust issues.
Yes, it grabs her hair, the creature, because they set up the rule that if it touches you, it gets you. That's the rule. Great. Don't let it touch you. It's going to constantly walk and try to get you. It can take the form of anything. That's your setup. It's a great, and also that's a great scene too. The setup scene where she's in like the wheelchair and the camera's like steady on her, and I think it's a really cool, tense scene because we don't know she's in it. Yeah, but then almost immediately, you don't understand why characters are doing, like, they're on the beach and they're like, she has her back turned, like not facing the water. Like, I don't understand. And it grabs her hair, Trillbee. It grabs her hair. Why is she not dead?
Yeah, and people are like, oh no, but you just don't get it. All of the forms that the creature is wearing, they're all of them are wearing white, except for the one time it's not wearing white. So I'm just going to ignore that. It's like, it's something I want to like. I love the base premise of it. I think it's the premise is so set up to give the audience paranoia. But it doesn't even follow those reasonable standards that it sets for itself.
It's like if the Thing broke its rules, it would lose all tension. Like, you can tell the Thing was it was like the Thing meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers or something. That was it was a cool idea. Speaking of which, I convinced my friend to watch The Thing the other day. Oh man, so good. Yeah, that blood test.
But It Follows, the music's great, but does it belong here?
I think so. I think especially since the director clearly wanted to John Carpenter this. He clearly wants to just make Halloween. I feel like in a different world, you know who should have gotten It Follows? The Duffer Brothers, the guys that did Stranger Things. I feel like they could have done a lot of cool stuff with that. Speaking of which, season 2, it's so close. I can smell it. I'm excited. I'm so ready.
It Follows is the type of film that I want to be remade in 10-15 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. It deserves it. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to diverge again from Hush.
But it's okay. Hush is really good.
Okay. Did you see anything else?
I skimmed through Lights Out because, like I said, I was trying to find out how to do lighting indoors, but I haven't fully watched it. I've watched certain scenes, but I've not
I think that film is a blast. I think it's not necessarily like The Conjuring, where you're like, that's a very well-rounded, excellent film, not just a good horror film, but a good film in general. I think Lights Out's just a really good horror film. It has its issues, of course. If I was rating it more as just a film in general, it's more like a 7.5. But as a horror film, it's more towards the 9 range. I really dig that film a lot.
Have you looked at David F. Sandberg's Wikipedia page?
I have not.
It says, okay, so David F. Sandberg is a Swedish film director. He is best known for his collective no-budget horror short films under the online pseudonym Pony Smasher, and for his 2016 directorial debut of Lights Out. He is not a smasher of ponies, contrary to what his online pseudonym suggests. That's on the Wikipedia page for David F. Sandberg.
That's pretty funny. I hope they keep that forever. I hope that.
I hope so, but yeah, David F. Sandberg's Twitter handle.
Speaking of which, people on the wiki page. Speaking on the people on the wiki page, way to keep up, everybody. Come on, what happened? No one updates the page anymore.
I'm disappointed.
I'm a little disappointed. They haven't updated my quotes for like 3 months. I'm a little sad. Hopefully, some guy now will be like, "Oh, I'll do it," and
I must do it.
One guy they'll find somebody to obsess over me again, and I'll look down my balcony of my apartment and just see someone taking a picture of me, and it's like, what the?
It'll be a guy wearing a Hush mask. He'll be wearing, that'd be creepy.
I'm very concerned that one of the fans of the podcast lives in San Antonio. I'm very nervous if that's true.
Show yourself!
All right, Trillbee. Okay, well, if you don't have anything else to say, I guess we get to feature presentation then.
Hooray.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right, guys, this is try that again.
Come on, Morty, we're going to talk about
we're going
to talk about our films.
We gotta go to Best and Worst of Summer 2017, Morty.
.com. Moviemania.com. Moviemaniaadventures.com.
9 more seasons of it, but you gotta shove it way up there, Morty. Way up there. Okay, yeah, guys, so we're gonna talk about our favorite movies of the summer, this past summer, 2017.
Oh, geez, Trey.
I guess. Jeez. Okay, so we're gonna. I guess we'll trade off. We'll do our best. one best, one worst. I think that works best. We'll trade off one apiece. Or should we all do? If we do best and I don't know how you want to do this, Trillbee. We haven't talked about this at all. So
no, we haven't. That's fun. We're flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
I think that I'll name my third best. You'll name your third best, and then third worst. Third, and I think we'll just go up in ascending order.
Right on. Well, then you can get started first, Trillbee.
Okay, I just want to throw out an honourable mention for best film of the summer, or like basically fourth place. I'm going to go for Atomic Blonde. The plot was way too convoluted, but the action was incredibly awesome. Charlize Theron was brilliant. The stunt work is really commendable. I really recommend you check out Atomic Blonde.
Okay, I guess. Okay, I'll do my honorable mentions when I do my list. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, but yeah, my third favourite film of summer 2017 was Wonder Woman.
Okay.
But I hate DC. I hear people cry. I remember people saying, "Oh, your positive review of Man of Steel was just you lying so that you could bash the DC universe later." It's like, I don't nearly have that level of dedication.
That clever, and you're that honest about it.
Yes, I'm thinking that far ahead that I'm going to lie about Man of Steel just so I can bash Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman. But yeah, Wonder Woman, the third act is a little bit clunky, and the sight of David Thewlis with his porn stash mustache is weird. Yeah, it's not good. It's no good. But the rest of the film is it's kind of what I want from a summer movie. The action's brilliant. The characters are likable. It's got a real punch your fist in the air feeling. It's got some great money shot moments. That sounds wrong. And
Diana, shield. Oh, awesome.
Exactly, yes. Patty Jenkins directs the hell out of it. Warner Brothers just needs to back a massive dump truck of money for it to get Wonder Woman 2.
Yeah.
I'll just fund whatever indie art house film that she wants to make next in order to do Wonder Woman 2. Whatever, just do it, because she is absolutely worth it. This is easily... Yeah, she's a star in the making, even though she seems to be a bit similar to Dave Bautista in that she has a very limited range, but when you give her a director that is able to tap into her unique skills and presence on screen, you wind up with movie magic.
Yeah, and speaking of Bautista, I'm really interested to see how he is in Blade Runner, by the way, but we'll talk about that next week.
Yes, that'll be interesting to see, because he's only in a couple of shots in the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't think he has any dialogue in the trailer.
He might just be a brute, yeah.
Maybe. Similar to Spectre, where he doesn't have any dialogue.
Or he might even be the thing that Ryan Gosling starts off hunting. I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah, there's a lot of mystery surrounding that film.
Oh, it looks so beautiful that I'm so hyped.
Yeah, that's Roger Deakins cinematography for you.
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
Patty Jenkins directs the hell out of it. So the action is head and shoulders better than anything that DCEU has given us before. It is the best comic book movie of the summer because Logan was like April, wasn't it? Logan was not a summer movie.
That was a loud smack, guys. That is my bad. That was March. Logan came out March 3rd.
So Logan is not going to be on either of our lists. I think Logan is still the best comic book movie of the year. But it's kind of unfair to compare Wonder Woman and Logan.
Split's pretty great, but Split technically isn't a comic book movie.
I was going to say, how does that work?
Yeah.
But
it's
still,
a superhero film technically, but I think Split's fantastic.
But and Colour Me surprised. Like at the beginning of the year, I did not expect at the end of the summer to say that Wonder Woman was going to be better than Spider-Man: Homecoming or Guardians of the Galaxy
Guardians 2. Yeah.
But that is where I am. Wonder Woman is the best DCEU film. Patty Jenkins is by far and away the best storyteller they've gotten behind the camera thus far in this whole enterprise. And just that scene of her stepping over no man's land, that is kind of the stuff that movie iconography is made of.
No, but it's what I'm gonna do. And the music builds, and she steps back, drops her drape, and you just see the shield, and she gets the sword, and everyone starts shooting at her. It's like bah, bah, block, 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 and then and then all the guys terrific. Are like go, 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 and they follow. And they're not just like, what? But this is a woman, and she's just like, nope, I'm just a strong guy. It could have been a guy, it could have been a girl, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It was just a strong person leading the charge, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, and even the sequence on the beach with the Amazons, and they ride around the mountain on their horses, and then she jumps over the shield and then fires the 3 arrows in slow motion. The action here is terrific. Yeah. Some of the green screen work needed a bit of work.
Yeah.
But give Patty Jenkins a bigger budget next time.
And the Steve Trevor death, it gets me. It's that moment where he realizes that he's gonna die, that he gives that sense of and like gives it this sense of like this kind of quick breath, this moment of realization before he shoots it that just it kills me every time. I'm like, that's brutal.
And Eleanor Ania as Dr. Poison is going to give some kids nightmares, I think.
Yes,
but yeah, it's just it is
one of the best moments in a summer movie, by the way. But it locks from the outside or whatever. They're like, I know, and then they both have like those two have like an evil cackle.
Oh yeah, there's like, but the gas mask won't work. They don't know that.
Yeah, they have like the Scooby-Doo villain laugh off, and I lost it in the theater. Yeah. It was perfect. Yeah,
it's funny, but yeah, it is kind of like the quintessential summer film, and it is the most like stereotypical summer film on my top 3. But it's the most mainstream film on my top 3. But that is by no means a bad thing. This is the film that many of us have been waiting years for, and some people of the opposite gender have been waiting their entire lives for, and it was worth it. Hopefully a Wonder Woman style film will come again sooner rather than later.
I'm sure it'll be sooner. Captain Marvel looks to be a nice surprise. Well, okay, tell you what, I will start with my honorable mentions. Wonder Woman is obviously an honorable mention. Guardians and Spider-Man, I think, were both films that Spider-Man more than Guardians. I think both films I thought I had a blast with.
I thought that's what you were going to say. They were films.
Yeah, they were films. But I was writing as I was talking, and I cannot do both. I've learned, but those are both films. Marvel has had another solid year for movies in the same way they're like Age of Ultron and Ant-Man, both good films, great. But I do think, in the long run, neither will be remembered as the great Marvel movie, of this phase, of Phase 3, if you will. I think Civil War has that nabbed in the butt for right now. But who knows, maybe from everything I've heard, number 3, I dropped my phone. Wonderful. My number 3 on the list is It Comes at Night, which is the film by Trey Edward Schultz, starring Joel Edgerton and some other people that I can't remember their names.
I did not see this because the only screenings in my area were around midnight. They only had one showing a day. Well, it was around midnight. Could not see it.
Not a bad time to watch the movie.
I know. It doesn't work for my work hours.
Fair. Tell you what, I won't give spoilers, obviously, because none of the people have seen the film. But
does it come at night?
Yeah, actually it does. So, but what... I won't say what it is, though. What I will say is, if you are in a mood for not only a methodical thriller with some incredibly scary sequences, but more or less if you want a tense and heart-wrenching drama about the potential end of the world, it's such an experience in the same way that other movies on this list are. It kind of it grabs you by the throat and doesn't let you go emotionally. Like, you've got a lump in your throat pretty much the entire film. You either have a lump in your throat or a knot in your gut from the tension and the sadness. It's so bleak, it's so grim. It's like the ending of The Road, but the entire movie. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's very The Road in the sense of its bleak tone. And Joel Edgerton gives a fantastic performance. The film is beautifully shot for its very limited budget. And it's essentially a bottle film set in like 2 locations, but I was vague when I talked about it a couple months ago, and I'll be vague again, but it's a film that I think everybody probably should see. If you're a film fan especially, you should see it, as you want to make a horror film, don't you? So I think you want to check it out as a way, it's a car horn. I'll keep talking. But you should.
It's coming at night.
There it is. But it's a film that I think you should see, especially if you want to know, how do you handle tension, and how can somebody walking down a dark hallway holding nothing but a lantern be terrifying for 6 minutes, and they somehow make it that way. You want to talk about indoor lighting. It's another great film to talk about indoor lighting, and just how it builds and what it actually is. It's such a... when it's done, all you're going to do is go, well, what did I think about that? Yeah, okay. I don't know how else to say it, but it's such a good film, and it's stuck with me after all this time. I still, every now and then when it gets too dark there, I'm just like, I'll be just a tad bit nervous from watching that film. I really enjoyed it.
Sweet. Should we? I'm just thinking, just so we don't have a really segmented list. Should we just go for our number 2 best, as opposed to hopping from our best and worst lists?
Okay.
I just think that's a bit easier.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So my number 2 movie of the summer was The Big Sick.
Okay. Yeah.
Which it's not what you really call a conventional summer movie. It's a romantic comedy about a Pakistani stand-up comedian and a young white girl from Chicago. Sorry, but yeah, it's actually one of the best romantic comedies I've seen in a long time. It's a film that's managed to do incredibly well on like the indie movie circuit. It's from Amazon Studios and Lionsgate, but they gave it in America. They gave it a very limited domestic release. And the word of mouth was so positive that it just wound up doing incredibly well in terms of its per theatre average. So week in and week out, they would expand the release, and it wound up making quite a bit of money for its really modest budget. So this is a true story of Kumail Nanjiani and how he and his wife met. It's kind of a literal biographical film, because it does star him playing himself, and his wife, who also co-wrote the screenplay, Emily V. Gordon, is played here by Zoe Kazan, and the two have incredible chemistry with each other, even though Zoe Kazan spends roughly 2/3 of the runtime in a coma, because that's what happened shortly after they met, and he had to develop a relationship with the parents, played by Ray Romano and Holly Hunter. It's a really funny, sweet, charming film. It's really understated in terms of the comedy. It's a really clever, witty comedy. You can tell that this is, even though it was produced by Judd Apatow, who relies on really adult gags and also a lot of improvisational humour. The script here took around 3 years to write and polish, so there's not a lot of room here for improvisation, but it does retain a lot of heart. It's a really funny, sweet, romantic comedy. I highly recommend you check it out when it's done through Amazon Studio, so it's likely you'll be able to stream it through there, or just watch it on DVD or Blu-ray when it comes out, because it's a really great film, and it felt like such a great breath of fresh air in the summer. It's not a conventional summer film, but it did feel like the ideal counter-programming. If you did not want to watch Wonder Woman or Guardians or Spider-Man or Dunkirk, you could watch The Big Sick, which is something that feels incredibly unique, even if it is coming from a really trite genre in terms of the romantic comedy, which is often a really toothless genre that is really, really hard to make something noteworthy in. But The Big Sick is noteworthy. It is a really funny, witty, cross-cultural romantic comedy, and I highly recommend everyone check it out.
Yeah, it's on my list, Trillbee. I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately. Otherwise, I feel like we'd be talking about it both right now. But it's something, Kumail Nanjiani, whenever he shows up, he entertains me quite a lot. Have you seen, like, in Dave Need Wedding Dates?
No, I haven't, no.
He's the best part of that movie. He shows up for maybe, like, 10 minutes as a massage therapist, and that's probably the only scene in the movie where I laughed out loud. It's not a very good film, but he's great in it. And I like the trailers, so...
It's also great to see Ray Romano in this as well, because apart from, let's say, the Ice Age movies, where he plays the mammoth, he's
Manny.
really not...
His name's Manny.
Yeah, sorry to disrespect the mammoth, but he's not really been in an awful lot recently, and then he just shows up in The Big Sick, obviously identifiable as Ray Romano because of his really distinct voice, but often stealing a load of scenes and just being really funny.
Yeah, okay. Well, I still have to check it out, but it's on my list, Trillbee, so I don't know really what else to say.
So,
okay.
Your second best.
Yes, my second best, as I write this down. My second best film this summer is, I mean, I can switch between my 1 and 2, if I'm honest with you. They're both films that I think gave me a thrill ride in different forms, but in terms of a film that I saw and I said, that's a film that everybody needs to see, I don't know how you don't call Baby Driver. You know, I rewatched the opening scene on YouTube, and it is so good. It's so fun. It's such an experience from start to finish. It's oddly heartwarming, but at the same time, it's really thrilling. And if you haven't seen Baby Driver, spoilers, obviously, but everything.
So, Trey, I'm gonna let you finish. But Baby Driver was my number 1 film of the summer.
Well, fantastic. Then let's start talking about it.
Yes. I mean, I'm gonna let you finish.
Funny enough,
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
funny enough, the VMAs are tonight, so this is
are they?
this is oddly appropriate.
Oddly prophetic. Brilliant.
Yeah. So tell you, I mean, but man, just from Ansel Elgort, who impressed me with Fault in Our Stars, just really coming to his own in this film. Very old classic Hollywood role of like, I'm the young guy that I'm gonna, young guy. I don't know. And then
I'm the young guy. That's my personality.
I don't know how else to describe it. James Dean, if you will. But to Jamie Foxx's electrifying performance, John Hamm, who goes from this really cool transformation from being just this, it's just a chill John Hamm dude, to just being this nightmare that Baby has to get through, to the ending that might go on 5 minutes too long, but still a really fun time. And Kevin Spacey stealing every scene he's in my opinion. And maybe the best reference to Monsters, Inc. in a few years.
I was going to say that, yeah. Monsters, Inc. reference.
Yeah, but overall, it's a film that I think you'll see it once and just have a blast, and you'll want to see it multiple times, but you'll want to see it with a new crowd every time, just to see what other people get out of it.
Yeah, it's something that it's probably not playing in theatres anymore, at least unless you go to maybe an art house venue. While you probably will...
it's still in theaters here in the States.
Or I don't imagine it's a wide release though. It's probably going to be in select cinemas.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, but it's something that you probably could wait for DVD and Blu-ray, but no, don't. If this is something that you probably will benefit from a big screen experience, especially regarding the sound. Because Baby Driver is not what you would call an Oscar film, but it has got so much support from other members of the film industry. Like Guillermo del Toro did like seven tweets talking about how much he loves Baby Driver, and there are so many filmmakers out there who have just been lavishing praise all over Baby Driver, and they are the ones who vote in the Academy. So I don't think it's going to win, Best Picture or Best Actor or anything. But just how incredibly well thought out the sound design is, how you are in Baby's head, who he suffers from tinnitus, where he's got a ringing in his ears, and whenever the music is not playing, or whenever he doesn't have the earphones in, the sound plays the hum. It plays that high pitched whine. So you are in Baby's head. You hear what he hears, including his heartbeat when he's running. It's really clever sound design, and that alone might be worthy of a big screen experience. Or if you've got a great sound system at home, put that sound bar on. But it's just a complete package in a way. The romance is really endearing and charming. It's really funny. It's funnier than most comedies that were released this summer. The action is amazing. We'll talk about Transformers later, I'm assuming, but all of the car chases in here completely school anything Michael Bay has done in 5 years with $1 billion worth of budget. It's kind of ridiculous and really depressing when you say that out loud.
If it's going to get any kind of the higher prestige Academy nominations, I'm thinking original screenplay. It's probably going to get that, because there's some really creative lines in there, and I think it flows very nicely. Mike Myers gag. It's
the structure as well.
Yeah.
It's not just the dialogue, although that is funny. This is Michael Myers. No, the killer. Oh, like Jason.
No, I love that. It's like, oh, you mean Jason? No, man, I love that. It's great. Mm-hmm. And of course, the Monsters Inc. gag. The Monsters Inc. gag is so perfect.
Was he
also
slow? Retarded means slow. Was he slow? And I guess reminds me of the Rick and Morty gag about retarded. Sorry.
Oh, you've seen that clip. Yeah.
I've seen a clip, yeah. That was really funny.
I love that. Well, that's retarded. That's beautiful.
But this is the type of film where a filmmaker has been given lemons and made lemonade, because after he left Ant-Man, he took most of the crew who was going to make his version of Ant-Man and brought them on to make Baby Driver.
Damn.
If it wasn't... Yeah, I have a feeling maybe we might have seen Baby Driver regardless, but it's just great that Edgar Wright was able to not drop that torch. He was able to keep running with it and make something that's truly exceptional. Mm-hmm. My favourite film of the summer, one of my favourite movies of the entire year, and
yes.
I feel like the only negatives I hold against Baby Driver is when I compare it to other Edgar Wright films.
That seems to be the biggest criticism that a lot of people will have, is that I think the two big things I ever hear is that it's not great when compared to the trilogy or Scott Pilgrim, in that the characterization is weak, especially on the side of the female characters. Yeah. Which I can understand that mindset. I thought Lily James did an exceptional job That's Lily Jane. That's her name. Right? I thought she did an exceptional job
Yes.
As a role of...
Yeah.
What's her name again? Well, point proven. There it is.
Deborah.
Deborah,
Deborah,
there it is.
like a zebra.
Yeah.
But it's more indicative of just how great Edgar Wright's filmography is, as opposed to being a slight on Baby Driver.
Yeah.
But it's edited to perfection. The sound designs, the actual score, the soundtrack, sorry, the licensed music, where Kevin Spacey's been saying in interviews that when he and the other actors were given the script, they were given a USB stick with all of the music on it, and in the scripts it would say, play the song here, or play the song from this point, so that they could listen to the music while they were watching the scene. And that perfect syncrasy between music and the visuals and the dialogue, you don't really get much like this from any other filmmaker. Like I like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 a lot, and there's some great music cues there, but even Guardians is not so inextricably linked to its soundtrack as Baby Driver is.
Yeah. I love you can just see the opening scene with Bell Bottoms. I mean, everything from the editing of the music, it feels like a music video for Bell Bottoms, if you didn't know any better. And then, of course, the way they do the gun at the end, where, he gets shot near both ears, it's you're right. I mean, you're talking sound design, sound mixing, editing. I'm thinking probably a screenplay, and then maybe cinematography. In terms of because I mean there's some shots in the diner that are just gorgeous. But
there's just a few shots in the streets of Atlanta where they filmed this. Like Edgar Wright was joking in an interview that he was originally thinking of setting it in London, but then he thought, wait, you can't have a car chase in London because there's too much traffic.
Yeah,
and that is the case. You can't do that.
You can tell this movie means so much to him. I mean, because he's out. I think it was like 14 countries that he did a press tour in, and he if you follow him on his Instagram, which I do, you can see that he's so adamant that he's so happy that I think the movie crossed $100 million domestically, which is great, and he's so happy, and he's so proud of the work that he's done. And the stuff that he's put together.
Yeah, it's nearly at 200 million worldwide as well. It's his most successful film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
I'm so
Bill
happy
Pope,
about that, because his films never usually do well.
Absolutely. But with Bill Pope's cinematography as well, he did The Jungle Book, and also he did the Matrix and Spider-Man 3, Scott Pilgrim. This guy knows his way around a camera. Yeah. And there's just, it's in the trailer as well. There's just some shots that I just have no idea how he did it. When the car, it's actually like the second shot of the first car chase. When John Bernthal points forwards, he drives backwards, and then it goes to this shot where the car spins round, goes round the corner, and the camera follows the whole way. And I don't know how they did a shot like that. I don't know how on earth the road is structured, or like whether or not he zooms out as the camera's coming to the camera. So I don't know how this happened.
And that's kind of some of the best parts of how'd they get that shot? There are certain things where you watch it, and you can't just be like, oh, they had a tripod, or they did a zoom, or whatever. You're really genuinely confused, and it's a movie magic, man, The magic of cinema.
Baby Driver brings out the magic of cinema. But for some reason, it's not your number one, Trey. What blasphemy is this?
So should I just jump into my number one then, since we talked about your number one?
Is it Dunkirk?
Yes, Trillbee is Dunkirk.
You Christopher Nolan fanboy.
Bad boy, yes.
There's nothing more predictable than a Nolan fanboy.
You got me, Trillbee.
I am kidding, by the way. When you mentioned experience, I thought, okay, it's either Dunkirk or Baby Driver.
And like I said, those two can flip flop depending on the day, in the same way that this reminds me of 2014, when 2014 came out, and there was 8 great films that could all have been number one on my list. Whether it be Whiplash, Birdman, Selma, Gone Girl, just Interstellar, just all mind blowing films. But Dunkirk is my number one, and I'm only saying that because I think both films looked like they were incredibly difficult to make. But I do think, out of the two films, I think Dunkirk has a more timeless quality to it. Which I think is odd, because Baby Driver also has the ability to become a modern-day classic, but I think, much like a film like The Thin Red Line or Apocalypse Now, Dunkirk will be looked upon as... Do you hear that, Trillbee?
Faintly.
Okay, I'll check. I'll close that in a minute. Okay, Dunkirk is like... like I said, it's an experience. It's a film you're not going to it's a film I'll never forget the film. It's a film that when you see it in the theater, it's a film that you're going to think back on and think of in terms of some of the great war films. It'll be known as this technological marvel that was also able to tell this really riveting story in a quite interesting way. And I think the lack of characterization is actually going to help it in the years to come. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't rate it as highly as you, but I can't I can't
So
speak.
tell me
against
why
the
you hated the
craftsmanship.
movie, Trillbee. Why
It
is the movie
sucked
garbage?
because I knew how it was going to end. I massively respect Christopher Nolan and his technical team. I think they've done some stuff on camera that just would not have been possible a few years ago, and they've just ran with the technology and the coordination of the actual ships and the planes and the vehicles involved. And the big screen experience was amazing as well. I saw it at 70mm IMAX. It did not quite emotionally engage me, but this is still a film I probably buy on Blu-ray, and it's something that I am really interested in the actual filmmaking process of it as well. The sound design is probably going to sweep many of the technical categories, include like I said, the sound design, the whole soundscape that Hans Zimmer and I forget who edited Dunkirk. I'm going to quickly look that up.
Probably Lee Smith, right? Because that's Nolan's typical editor.
Let me have a gander. It was Lee Smith. Yeah, the whole soundscape that.
I love that I know that. I love that
That's very good.
I can just spit that out.
The cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema is it's stellar. It's Oscar caliber, and I'm glad that the film has done well, and it's resonated with yourself and many other people to become one of their favourites, if not their favourites of the summer. It's just something that didn't quite emotionally connect with me. We've talked about this, was it last week or the week before?
It was last week.
So I don't want to repeat myself too much here because this is a segment of positivity, but I'm not gonna knock it for its technical horsepower, so to speak. It is a incredibly unique and once in a lifetime cinema experience that
I think
noteworthy.
it'll be remembered as a staple of the genre. It may not be remembered as one of the great movies of all time, like some of his other works, like a Dark Knight or an Inception. But I think it'll be looked upon as what's one of the great war films, and people will say, "Oh, Dunkirk." But I don't think people look at Dunkirk as, "Oh, it's one of the best movies ever." Like people look at what's a nice space movie, Interstellar. What's a nice war film, Dunkirk.
Yeah.
What's
a good Batman movie? Batman v Superman. No, sorry.
Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
Out
of all of the three, that's the one you could have picked.
I don't care what anyone says. That's my Return of the Jedi. I don't care what anyone says. But yeah, that's
Mark Rylance and Kenneth Branagh are really good in the film as well.
I can't tell you how many times I've been standing next to Christian, we're looking at a hill, and I'm like, you can almost see it from here, and he goes, "What?" And I go, "Home." We both just start giggling. Yeah. Or yeah. And I'll just be like the storm will get really bad, and I'll be like, "Where's the bloody Air Force?" I don't know. The film just really, it shook me. I was like Cillian Murphy by the end of the film. I was like, I can't go back, but I want to.
I'm gonna go kill a kid. I can't go back.
I'm gonna go kill a kid. Dunkirk, it'll make you want to kill a kid.
Yeah,
right.
That's a ringing endorsement on the Blu-ray. It'll make you want to kill Harry Styles.
No, but speaking of Harry Styles, he's great in it. I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
Shocking performance of the year, Harry Styles somehow. No, but I'm sure he's a chill dude. It's the fan base that I can't stand. Okay, so that's all the. Oh wait, no, we still have the worst to get through.
I was hoping you'd forget, so we wouldn't have to dwell on it.
If you don't want to do the worst, we don't have to. We just cut this part out.
It's got to be done. But, okay, so my honourable mention for the worst is The Dark Tower. Also, just spoiler warning, I've not seen the Emoji Movie, so that's not going on this list.
I am not either.
Okay, so this is not going to be a comprehensive, definitive list of the worst films, because we have not seen the worst film. It's called the Emoji Movie. That's awfully presumptive of me. I apologise, but yeah, The Dark Tower.
I'm sure it's awful, Trillbee.
Yeah, but the Dark Tower is just something that it feels like a shell of what it could have been. It feels like some of the action is decent, and Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey are either fun, or they look like they're having a fun time, or they actually do give some pretty good performances. But it does feel like a massive disappointment, and Stephen King or Dark Tower fans are just going to be completely let down, and anyone who isn't familiar with the source material is not going to get anything that will want them to delve into that book series. But my third worst movie of summer 2017 is Transformers: The Last Night. And we know,
that's my number one.
Oh gosh, do you want to punt it? Do you want to wait until we get to your
No,
number
we'll
one?
talk about it now. It's fine.
Okay then. It's worth reminding audiences, because I know that it's really difficult to remember specific stuff that happens in these Transformers films, but we know that Mark Wahlberg is the last night of the title because he hasn't gotten laid in a long time.
That's right, that happened. That's right.
Yeah, that's an actual thing.
Oh, I forgot that happened. Yeah.
And can we also talk about how the Transformers aging doesn't make a lot of sense? Like, you've got a World War I tank who has robo-dementia, which is an actual quote from Anthony Hopkins, but Bumblebee is just as old because he was fighting in World War II, but he and the other Transformers do not seem to have any sort of adverse
They're
aging
all
effects.
thousands of years old because they fought in the war that led Megatron down to Earth in, like, the 1800s.
Yeah. And Jetfire, even though he's really, really old from Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, in fact, his grandfather was the first wheel who transformed into nothing. That's actually a pretty funny joke.
Yeah.
But yeah,
don't give that movie credit, Trillbee.
Yeah, it's a terrible movie, but that was a funny gag. And then we have Bumblebee talking, and Optimus is like, "I've not heard your voice since Cybertron fell, except for the end of the first movie 10 years ago."
When he got his voice back, and then he just lost it for no reason in the second one.
Yeah, I can't quite rate it any lower because in terms of franchise rankings, it's probably right in the middle. And very similar to Baby Driver being compared to much better Edgar Wright films, or I say much better, slightly better Edgar Wright films, depending on what your preference in storytelling is. For Transformers: The Last Night, it probably would rank worse if it wasn't for the fact that I know that this franchise could get a lot lower and a lot more depraved. Remember Transformers: Age of Extinction, there is an entire scene dedicated to explaining in depth to the audience why it's okay for this underage woman to be a sexual object because of these Romeo and Juliet laws. And there's also scenes where, dogs are humping each other and Transformers are humping people's legs, and Bumblebee actually pisses on John Turturro. There's Transformers testicles. This franchise has seen much worse days, but I know that is the definition of damning with faint praise. Absolutely. But yeah, Anthony Hopkins is fun at least. He looks like he's having fun, and I'm happy for him. I just wish I was having more fun.
Yes.
So, do you want to talk about it fully now, or should we wait until your number one?
I don't know how else to describe it, but a raging dumpster fire. It's like they got a thing of gasoline and poured it inside a dumpster, and the smell of garbage was exploited by the smell of burning gasoline.
I'm thinking it's two dumpster fires that have taken sentience and are fighting each other.
I think that's the best way to describe the new Transformers movie. I don't know. It was so bad that my friend Christian he's a pretty relaxed moviegoer, but even there was a certain point where he literally stood up and started walking towards the eggs, and I made him sit back down because he did not want to sit through this 2.5-hour film, and this is about 90 minutes in, and I let him know that we still had about an hour left, and he was very adamant about let's just go home. And by the time the movie ended, he was leaning over the trash can. He was having a miserable time, and it was really fun. The best, I had fun because I was able to watch him have a horrible experience, but no, the film is truly terrible, and it might be the worst in my opinion because it's number 5. You know what I mean? It's the 5th one in, and that's what makes it worse. There's two I think has some redeeming qualities in it. That being maybe the Rainn Wilson performance. The Wayne Wilson cameo was pretty fun. I liked most of what Jetfire had to offer, except the farting, and I thought there were some decent shots. Yeah. But 5, even the cinematography is awful. For the most part, it's awful. And I thought
the weakest action of the series.
Absolutely, it has a cool thing where they're kind of flying up towards this thing, but I feel like all the best stuff was done by a second unit team. Much like a film like Suicide Squad, it's just the worst. And if you like these films, and you have fun with these films, that's absolutely fine. I can never respect or trust your opinion on films again, but it's absolutely fine. And I give Jurassic World a lot of crap for being a terrible movie, because it is. But there's terrible movies, and then there's dumpster fires. It's like you took this bag of dog crap and threw it in the fire, and then you just vomited on it, and then you took your own dumpster crap on it, and it's like they're making you drink dumpster water. You know, the water that leaks below dumpsters, and you can smell it. Like, clearly this water is not clean.
I feel like I'm Jeff Goldblum approaching this pile, going, "This is one big pile of shit."
Exactly. It's like Michael Bay. It's like in Rick and Morty when they rub your face in your urine. It's just like that. It's like but we know what we're going in for, and thank God this has made the lowest amount of money out of any film in the franchise. I don't think it's cracked 600 million yet, which is nice. And
it has, but only barely.
Well, like
604.
Yeah, it was like 604. So last I checked, it was at like 570. Okay. Well, then it barely cracked. And like the first one did like 740. So it barely, it didn't even get close to what the first film made, let alone the sequels. I genuinely cannot stand this film, and I hope that Michael Bay is never allowed to make movies ever again, because this charade needs to end. He's the Adam Sandler of blockbusters, and it's really starting to anger me. I'm angry. This movie angers me. I hate it.
Yeah, I think objectively it might be worse than the other two films on my list, but it's just, I feel like I've acclimatized to it now. Like, you know, when you are just in a really, really smelly environment, but after a few hours you stop smelling it. You become nose blind. Mm-hmm. That's probably why this is only number 3 on my list.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Not to mention, because I know that like the girl in the movie is in Guardians of the Galaxy, and she's good in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
She's good in other films. She's in one of the In-Betweeners movies, which is like a big UK film series. Okay. I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah, she's good in that. I've
heard of them. Yeah, so like you're taking talent upon, like you have a good cast. You got Josh Duhamel, who's good in things. You got Anthony Hopkins, who's, you know, Oscar winner. Who's also good in Westworld, by the way. We didn't talk about Westworld last week. Westworld, great show. Check it out. All of the episodes are on Netflix. No, not Netflix. HBO Go. You got Mark Wahlberg, who can be fantastic. Who I thought was decent in the last one. You got Optimus Bloody Prime, man. Use him. He's in it almost as much as Luke Skywalker's in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, Luke Skywalker's he's in the poster more than he is in the film.
Thank you. At least they didn't put Luke on the bloody posters. Okay. All right. I'm done talking about Transformers.
Yeah, that is fair. I'm cautiously optimistic for the Bumblebee film, but it's...
I have faith in Travis Knight. I
have faith in Travis Knight, but I don't have faith in the system.
Yeah, well, I think you have a lot of good things back in it. They pushed it back to December, I believe.
Yeah, December next year.
Yeah, that reminds me. So Han Solo's happening, like, in May.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Just random thought. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I suppose I should get to my number 3, shouldn't I? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, then my number 3, I say as I'm stalling again as I write this down. There it is. My number 3. We talked about this last week, and speaking of the roundness of Elizabeth Olsen, my number 3 worst film of summer 2017 is A Wind River, and
the Elizabeth Olsen butt movie.
Yeah, and look. I have had chats with people who have seen the film. I continue, mind you, to get comments of, "No, the film's great if you're mature enough to handle." I'm not. People
Trey,
see the thing.
Grow up.
People see the thing that
Stop talking about butts.
Maybe if the director didn't hold on it for 3 seconds.
Actually, if anything, I was more immature last week than you were, but
I'm trying to criticize the film, and you're just like, "Betray." You're like, "Betray? What about the butt?" No, but it's like I get it. I get that the film has an interesting story behind it, and I get a car alarm is going off behind. Okay, I get the film is telling an interesting story. I get the film is trying to have a good point about the way we treat Native Americans and their people, but it doesn't come across. I get what he's trying to do, but it's muddled down by overzealous and gratuitous depictions of violence and cinematography. I didn't realize that cinematography could get more pretentious than this. And the writing, the good God. You know when you watch like Doug Walker talk about Christopher Nolan, and like he has an issue with how he calls it Nolan's speech, where they always talk about themes and what life is and whatnot. That's what this movie is. It's what people. I know. I'm trying to think about this. I'm trying to make a cohesive thought here. It just the more I think about the film, the angrier I get, because it just nothing about the film is truly compelling for me, sans maybe the performances. Jeremy Renner is very good. Elizabeth Olsen's even better. But nothing about the film, maybe besides the performances, are truly compelling to me.
Well, last week when you talked about it, you just seemed really like indifferent or apathetic about it. So it seems like as you've sat on the film for a bit, you've developed more of a distaste for it.
Well, I think it's more of the line. It's one of the things of like when you first see it, you're like, that's fine, I guess. I wasn't a big fan, but as you see why people are loving it, you start to think about, no, that's not what I got out of it. Much like Jurassic World. Like I saw Jurassic World and I was like, that wasn't very good. And then everyone was like, but it was so fun. I'm like, oh my god. You know, where kind of the reaction of the people around you has an effect of how you view the film. I don't like saying that. I don't like being the guy that's like, everyone loves it, so I have to hate it. But I mean, that's just how I'm feeling at the moment. And that Elizabeth Olsen thing's really getting to me the more I think about it, because people are really praising the film about like, oh, look how it exposes the way that Native American women are treated. I'm like, you can't have a film be about the objectification of women and how it's an issue, and have that shot you have in the movie. I don't understand why that's there. And I've gotten people telling me like, well, that's the point. It's supposed to be because he's objectified. I'm like, shut up, stop it. It's okay. I can't get. Trillbee, you should see the film so we can talk about it. You should see.
To be honest, you had me at Elizabeth Olsen's butt.
Yeah. But, we'll just watch Old Boy then.
Yay! We get it in about a week or 2 weeks time in the UK. It's something I am wanting to check out. Yeah. So, because I finished my current job on Thursday, and then basically Friday through to Sunday, I'm going to just binge watch like so many films, right up my butt. So many adventures. So moviemaniamovies.com. So many movies up the butt.com.
I smell a 3-hour podcast next week. Speaking of next week, week I believe is the 1 year or 2 year anniversary of us, isn't it? It's our 2 year anniversary. Don't know what we're going to do for that. We'll figure something out. Okay. It snuck up on me. I won't lie to you. Yeah, that's my number 3. My number 3 is Wind River. What's your number 2, Trillbee? My
number 2 is The Mummy. It was my most disappointing film of the summer, as I laid out on my podcast last week. But yeah, it's not good. I was hugely let down by it, because I really do want to see a return of the Universal monsters, and it is Universal like going back into the playground that they themselves popularized in the 1930s. Like, Marvel is not the first company to have done a cinematic universe. In fact, they weren't even the second. Toho, with their Godzilla universe in the 50s and 60s and 70s, those monsters cross paths all the time. But it was really the films in the 30s from Universal, with Frankenstein, The Mummy, and The Wolfman, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and etc., where the cinematic universes were first birthed. And I was really hoping that they'd be able to do the exact same thing here with The Mummy, and they got some really good talent on board. They got some really good people behind the cameras, and also Alex Kurtzman, who has somehow made a career of just making generally poor films, and somehow is still able to get work. But yeah, it's no good. I think there's some ideas here which could have been interesting if they were handled by a director who had actually really worked on a big project before. Like the sequence where they're on the plane and the plane is crashing and it's all at zero gravity and they're really like being thrown about and going up and down this plane. It's all in camera, but Alex Kurtzman has no idea how to film it to make it come across like that. And Tom Cruise feels really miscast. Sophia Botella is the best part of the film, and yet the movie gives her character what seems to be a definitive ending. So it kind of gets, and even the Prodigium mythology is not that particularly compelling. Or and like Russell Crowe as Jekyll and Hyde, he's going to be nominated for a Razzie at the end of the year. Mark my words. It's not quite biblically Jared Leto Joker bad, but it's still not good. And I know that every so often I'm going to turn into this monstrous creature, and I have a serum for it. So what I'm going to do is I've got it in this elaborate case. I have to load 3 individual things incredibly slowly into this guy. Like, well, why is this such a long process for something you know you need quick access to? what is this shit? Why is it's trying to be the next Mission Impossible, like a new Mission Impossible, but it's also trying to be the Mummy, but it's like as in the Brendan Fraser Mummy, but it's also trying to have horror elements. It's trying to satisfy all of these different spectrums. It's trying to be a 4-quadrant blockbuster, and as a result, it satisfies none of those cravings. There's a couple of funny lines in it. Jenny, run! Is legitimately funny. There's a couple of good ideas from a conceptual standpoint. Like I said, I think Sofia Boutella is legitimately good in this film. And I think she is the best part of this film by far and away. And the use of glass in the finale, in the climax, is quite inspired as well. But it doesn't have a perceived end goal in sight as well in regards to building up this universe. Like with Marvel and with DC, we know what the end game is. That's Justice League. That's a big team up. There's not really any precedent for that in regards to the Universal Monsters. What are we building towards? I don't know if the ending of The Mummy is a cliffhanger or a tease. It's played so broadly and with so little actual thought. I don't think they really have a plan here, despite getting like Johnny Depp and potentially The Rock and Angelina Jolie and this incredibly talented cast. They're all dressed up here, but with nowhere to go. It's really disappointing. I wish that if a company is going to dedicate so much time and so much planning to a dark universe, that they actually know where they're going with it. I feel a bit sorry for Universal, who are estimated to lose around $90 million with this film. But
nice.
yeah.
Good, real good job there, guys. Yeah.
Congrats, guys. Maybe they thought, let's give this one a really generic name like the Dark Universe, so when we inevitably reboot this again, we can give it a Universal Monsters name or something more fitting. I don't know. So I was really let down by it, because the original Universal films, some of them have aged and there's some cheesy, campy elements to it, and not all of them are scary, but there's real ingenuity there, and the ways that they do cross over are entertaining and novel and engaging, and I'm just not getting that sense here. It's really disappointing.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
did you watch it?
Why?
Okay, good.
Why would I do that to myself? No, Trillbee, I did not watch The Mummy. What I did, I don't know why.
And it rips off American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I don't believe in the... Right now, me and Tom Cruise are not on good standing right now, because he hasn't put out anything of quality in a couple of years.
Are you the guy who broke his ankle?
No, what?
You're that guy.
I didn't put oil on the roof, what?
I shouldn't change the length of the wires he was jumping from so he'd miss the jump. Why do you even say that?
I like to imagine like when in the video, like he gets up and just kind of starts walking, like, yeah, I'm all right, I'm Tom Cruise, and like, but like imagine he's like crawling to his microwave is what he's trying to do. He's like, the microwave's okay.
Must get to the microwave to heal my leg through radiation.
He's like, grab the virgins, we eat their blood. He
stands up. And he's like, oh no, I'm fine. And then he like half limps away as he tries to cover it up. He gets around the corner. Ah!
He's like, what's his name? Mufasa or whatever in Austin Powers. Will Ferrell's character in Austin Powers. It's like, I'm okay, I'm going to try to stand on it. Oh no, it's gotten worse. I think it's broken the skin.
That was Will Ferrell.
Yeah, he's great.
I'm in an extraordinarily huge amount of pain.
I'm gonna try something my other leg. Oh my god! I love that scene so much.
What's his name? What's his character's name?
Mugatu is the one from Zoolander, isn't it?
I'm Mustafa.
And
I'm the one who will be killing you now.
It's such a great play in the James Bond tropes, yeah.
See, because I've not watched that film since I really started watching Will Ferrell comedies, so I've just not realised it was him.
That's Spy Who Shagged Me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the best. I think that's the best one, personally, in my mind. I don't know. That's when you get Mini Me, and that's when you get the.
Yeah, it's where it really finds its footing, its own identity.
I really like that one. I like that one a lot. Though Goldmember has its moments. Daddy didn't love me. I love that so much. And the bloody Dutch or whatever he says.
Are those freaking sharks with freaking laser beams on their freaking heads? Yeah, it's good.
Scotty don't. Scotty don't. Yeah, those are good films. Anywho's, that's The Mummy. my number 2, and it's a film that we've talked about, another film we've talked about ad nauseum. That'd be Alien Covenant. Another film that has gotten...
I'm let you finish.
Huh?
That's my number 1.
Is it really? Attaboy, Trillbee. Attaboy.
But I must clarify, before I say Alien Covenant is my number 1 worst film of the summer, like I said, I have not seen Emoji Movie. I have not seen a lot of films that are probably more deserving of the number 1 spot if we are doing a more broad, objective list. But yeah, it is my number 1.
Yeah. It's awful. I mean, when we talked about it back in June, a couple months ago, on the podcast, I remember saying that I thought the first third was pretty good because we didn't get a lot of we didn't get a lot of alien stuff. It was just character stuff. But upon reflection, I think the stuff in the third and second acts reflects on the first act in a very negative way, in the same way that the last 2 Matrix films retroactively makes the first one worse. In the sense that, okay, and I know we talked about this in the Alien episode, but you're Billy Crudup, you're Dr. Manhattan, and you know David is not a good person. You know he's up to no good. You saw how he reacted when, speaking of which, when the captain kills the neomorph or whatever. Look at David's face again. When he's like, no! It's hilarious. It's
unintentionally.
I need a screenshot of that face just to send to people. Like what
that needs to be a GIF.
Yeah.
Or a
GIF. Trillbee. GIF.
Yeah.
GIF.
Maybe I just say that to annoy people. Maybe I just genuinely keep saying it wrong. Who knows?
Maybe you genuinely say it to annoy people. I don't know, Trillbee. Or should I say Trillbee? I don't know. I don't do it anymore.
You've gone too far.
I've gone too far. I can never go back. I'm like Tom Cruise. No, I just David isn't good. That there's something wrong with him. But he's like, come down to this dark basement. Okay, fine. Maybe he's going to show you something and just be on your guard. I guess I'll buy it. Here, look at this thing that's opening up and it's kind of thorny. You don't know what it is. Oh, just stick your face over it. Just go ahead and stick your face over it. And then they have the audacity to, when the alien pops out of him, to CG it.
Yeah.
That's not a difficult effect to do. You put Billy Crudup on a table, and you get a guy underneath, and you pop it. That's all you have to do. You have Billy Crudup's head, and you have a fake body, and just blood spurts out, and then a puppet just pops out. That's not difficult to do. I can do that, Trillbee.
I think if you had maybe this is an independent director or someone who hasn't been on the scene for that long and did this film, I think maybe we'd be a bit more lenient towards it. But this is Ridley Scott, and the fact that the alien sequences are so badly filmed and the effects are so bad in comparison to the original film from the 80s? Can't remember what year. What year was Alien?
79.
79. Yeah. The fact that the chestburster looks worse in 2017 than it does in 1979 from the same filmmaker with a bigger budget now, it's kind of inexcusable. And I think Ridley Scott...
Star Wars prequels.
Well, at least the effects were good. Obviously they date faster because it is CGI and it's a whole new different technology. But even the Phantom Menace is pioneering completely new technology.
Yeah, it had some good model stuff in it, and the pod racing.
Yeah, you can only really look back on the production side of Phantom Menace in retrospect because we have hindsight and we have new technology. I'm not going to fault Phantom Menace for at least attempting all of this stuff, but when you have Covenant, which is just... it looks pants, and you've got the video footage and photos of the makeup and the art department with this practical alien suit that they're using, and it looks great. But then it's just a CGI. They've done similar to the remake of The Thing, where they've gone over what looked like a really good practical model with a really bad CGI one, and that you completely lose respect for the whole process when it comes when something like that happens.
And it sucks because they recreate a lot of moments in the first Alien film, but they do it in certain different ways that could be great. And I go back to that first trailer and how hyped you remember, Trilly, how hyped I was for Alien Covenant after that, because that first trailer is so good. And, you know, you have that scene in the shower, like, oh, classic horror movie. And out of context, that's a cool-looking scene. You know, you have this couple in the shower, they're clearly having nice times, and then you see the alien tail come up, classic Alien, and then the blood looks like real blood, and it looks like, oh, man, it's going to be a classic horror gore fest. I'm excited. But then you, in context, and you're like, oh, people have died, and and the ship has blown up. Let's go and have fun times in the shower. Just our friends and colleagues are all dead. Let's go have fun in the shower. And then when the black guy, of course, dies, it's like this really terrible effect of like the alien tongue going through him and the blood doesn't look right. Like, I don't understand. That's not a hard thing. They did it in the 70s, Trillbee. They did a scarier death in the 70s. And it was good. What happened?
Yeah, and and the storytelling is all over the place. The characters aren't particularly well written. You get some decent performances, and otherwise, like really cookie cutter characters. Like Danny McBride, I think, is good in the film. Catherine Waterston is good, even though she is basically Diet Ripley.
Mm-hmm. I thought Billy Crudup did a good job.
Yeah, he did good. I think he's the type of guy who doesn't really have much of a presence on screen. Like,
he's a character
insult
actor.
The guy.
He's a character.
Yeah,
actor.
like he's really good in like Watchmen and in Spotlight, and he's good in those sort of roles. I just don't think.
Have you seen the Stanford Prison Experiment? Have you seen the Stanford Prison Experiment? I think he stands out a lot in that.
I've been meaning to watch it because
I
remember telling you about it, and then you told me about it, and then you watched it. Sorry.
Yeah. It's quite. It's quite. He did quite impressive performance in that. Maybe I have bias because I saw that film. I thought he was great in that. I think it's a really good film. If you guys haven't seen that film, by the way, check it out. It's on Netflix. It's great. But I don't know. I just it does so much that's wrong, and it. But unlike Transformers, where you're like that, you famously always say it's fundamentally broken. Mm-hmm. There are simple fixes here that can make this film a great film. And the concept of it isn't even terrible. It's a classic horror movie setup. It's a classic Alien setup. Oh, we're going to do this one thing, but we hear a noise. Well, let's go investigate. Fine. I can get past that, okay? I can buy the fact that Billy Crudup's character wants to do something to keep his crew on his side because clearly they don't like him for some reason because they just lost their other captain. I'm okay with all of that. That's a decent setup to set up a nice character arc for Billy Crudup. Maybe he has to sacrifice himself at the end to save the crew. Something like that, you know? But the way they handle it and the way everyone in the movie is just an idiot. He goes for a smoke and he steps away from his, I believe it's his wife, for a smoke, even though I'm pretty sure if that's his wife, why would she not? She knows he's a smoker. So why would he be... First of all, you wouldn't take a smoker on a space mission because they need to be in pristine amount of health. Unlike they're not like space truckers in the first movie. They're colonists and they're supposed to be like good at their job. Yeah,
okay. Let's not contaminate the new environment that we just landed on.
Yeah, I'm gonna and then he, instead of going to smoke, which is a bad idea, he instead takes a leak. Like, why not just say you're gonna take a leak, which you should not do, by the way. It's like going to the moon and taking a leak there. That's just not... You're going to kill something. And then... the movie... It just kind of gets systematically worse from there. Because it doesn't start off bad. And it's... I don't know. It does everything wrong. Not to mention... You're right about the whole raining on one side and then not raining on the other. And of course, the now infamously hilarious flute scene. I'll do the fingering. Hashtag I'll do the fingering.
Yeah, there's two sides to this film, in a way, and both sides disappoint. You've got the Prometheus aspect, which is a shadow that is now looming over this film to its absolute detriment. Because even people who are invested in the Prometheus mythology, like a friend who I saw the movie with, he left disappointed as well.
Yeah, that was me. We went to see it together, obviously, but I was a Prometheus fan that was expecting, I'm going to see Shaw again and whatnot. We don't.
Yeah, it still leaves behind way too many gaps. It's a contradictory mythology. It's not particularly interesting. And then you've got the Alien side, which is very similar to the original Alien, except not good. It's like, okay, if the only people I could recommend Alien Covenant to is, hey, do you want to watch Alien again, but not good?
Yeah, I'm
Alien Covenant.
Do you want to watch because even people that aren't like invested in the Alien franchise, like, oh, you just want to watch a cool sci-fi horror film. It's not that either. It's really dull and slow in a lot of parts. And, by the time you get to this part with the two robots, that aren't invested in the franchise are probably going to check out around that time.
Yeah, like if you took away, like, this film's got like in the 60s or 70s on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. If you take away the alien name and let's call it Rodrigo,
The Search
Covenant.
for Life. There, some generic movie.
Okay, The Search for Life, Rodrigo. I don't know, for some reason I just want to get that name in there. Okay, but if you called it The Search for Life, or Life, like, the film that came out earlier this year, and you replace the xenomorph with just just a general alien design, this film does not get more than 20-30% on Rotten Tomatoes, in my opinion.
Just like Life.
Yeah, well, actually, Life did pretty well critically, didn't it?
Did it? I thought it was in the lower percentile. I might be wrong.
Let me double check. That's a film I've not seen, but it's recently come out.
I've seen the ending, so I know. I mean, it's stupid.
Okay. I think it might have lost Sony a couple of $1 million as well.
Yeah.
Like, not a massive bomb, but underperformed. It got 67 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh. Well, I heard it was awful. Everyone that I saw it said it was awful. That's why I didn't check it out at the time.
I don't. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't. Alien Covenant it fails to really do anything right, and I think that's why it's going to stand out as a film that's worse than Prometheus. It's like Attack of the Clones. Like, people watch Phantom Menace and they're like, man, that wasn't great, but maybe he'll course correct and he'll pay attention, and we can salvage whatever this is trying to be. And then you watch Attack of the Clones, you're like, and like, to quote Screen Junkies, this wasn't an accident. Like, you can tell they have. I don't know. Alien Covenant.
The Star Wars prequel comparison, I actually think is really accurate, because the Phantom Menace and Prometheus are clearly the works of an author, filmmaker with a great prior legacy of films like Alien and also the Star Wars for George Lucas, who wanted to, like, Phantom Menace is a bad film, but that is a George Lucas film through and through.
Absolutely.
And, like, Prometheus is also like a Ridley Scott film through and through. But then for the next one, for Clone Wars and for Alien Covenant, you can see that they're kind of pandering in order to, like, clearly people weren't a fan of what they did previously, so they tried to include some elements to pander to the fan base. Like, for this one, it's, more xenomorphs, more stuff that you recognise. And for Clone Wars, it's like, someone who looks like Boba Fett. We've got less Jar Jar.
Look, a lot of lightsabers. You guys like the lightsaber fight, so let's just, a bunch of lightsabers at the end. Look, Christopher Lee, you like Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Oh, look, Yoda's got a lightsaber. Yeah. Attack of the Clones does not feel as much like a George Lucas film, because he's clearly adapting his vision and trying to pander in a way.
Yeah, and then by the time you get to Revenge of the Sith, you're like, what is this, man? And that's kind of why the only reason I want to see a franchise and keep going, to quote Mr. Sunday movies, I want to see what they do with it. I gotta see what happens next, man. There
was one reason I wanted to see Amazing Spider-Man 3, despite my better judgment. Like, how much further can they dig their own graves?
Like, what would Mary Jane be like? Like, they clearly cut, like, will they just include the scenes that they cut out of the second film? Just for, giggles? Like, what would it be, man? These are the questions that we have to ask about ourselves. Yeah, but Alien Covenant, it's genuinely awful. And the ending... You have to... Okay, let's work through this. To quote Cinema Sense, let's talk about David's plan. Okay, so David has to kill Walter, get rid of his arm, scar his face up, get the exact same scar tissue that Walter has. He has to know that the embryos in the ship that he's never seen or heard of before, because this is 20 years ago, this is 20 years past his current technology, has these little embryo sac thingies that match exactly with what he's developing with the facehuggers, and he has to swallow these and put them in his gullet, because he can do that even though he's just a machine. Fine. And then he has to get them on ship, help them defeat the alien, his creation, mind you, as opposed to just letting the alien kill them so that he can just... Is that you or me?
No, I thought that was like an alien. It's in the walls!
Like that Edgar Allan Poe story, The Black Cat. No, but like, you don't hear that?
I hear it.
Is it your end or my end?
No, that's your end.
Oh, well, that's slightly terrifying. Okay. No, I'll handle that later then. I'm going to edit a lot of background noise. Keep going. and then I don't know why he just wouldn't let it kill him, but okay. And then he just vomits up the stuff after. Truly, I don't.
Yeah, it's exhausting to try and wrap your mind around it.
Yeah, it really
and
is.
I'm going to resolve by not doing that. It's not really worth much more of my time, except when I inevitably put it in my year's end worst list.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Trillbee. Well, with that, I don't know. We talked about my number one earlier.
Well, just one more thing to bring up there. I've got to say, just in terms of summer in general, like because May, June, and July were like just full of like massive blockbusters week after week. August has just been a streak of nothing by the looks. Like Hitman's Bodyguard is looking to be number one again for the second weekend in a row. Because there's just nothing coming out here. So, but
it's like when
also,
War Room got number one with like $8 million, like in one of the worst weekends ever.
Yeah, but it's looking like this summer just gone is going to be like the lowest level of movie attendance since the summer of 1992, when Batman Returns was the biggest film of that summer. What do you think is the issue here? What can Hollywood learn from summer 2017?
We asked this exact same question last year. Do you remember this? You remember what we asked? It was around the time we talked about. It was like Independence Day 2 had just come out, and we were talking about like those. We were talking about something, and we brought up the fact of what can people learn from people not. Because 2016 had so many bombs, and we were asking what is it that people can take away. Like how we talked about 2016 was like, it was that student that. We expect more from our audience, from the moviegoers, because of how Netflix changed the game and whatnot. But I think the difference between 2017 and 2016 is that in terms of blockbusters, we got far better blockbusters this year, in my opinion. None of which we didn't get many game changing 9s or 10s in terms of we didn't get like a 2014 with like a Winter Soldier or a Guardians, but we did get last year we got, I know this Batman Superman was in the summer, but we got that to kick off the year, and then in summertime it was like Alice Through the Looking Glass, what else came out? Jason Bourne, Independence Day, just Warcraft, just a bunch of nonsensical bombs. I think it turned off a lot of people from, because even the films in the fall, even kind of the bigger blockbusters in the fall, weren't 10s. Doctor Strange was good, Fantastic Beasts was not good, and Rogue One was okay, but they weren't. None of those were like, oh, best films of the year. That was all the Oscar stuff, and not a lot of people go to the movies to watch Oscar stuff. They don't want to watch, to quote my family, they don't want to watch all that artsy crap. They want to watch entertaining films, even though there's a Venn diagram in there where artsy films can be quite entertaining. Okay, whatever. But I think what is happening, we are seeing in more or less the delay effect of what 2016 brought us. I think it's exactly what we're going on. What's seen here, where a film has to be truly exceptional for anybody to go out and actually see it. In the same way, like Get Out and Wonder Woman are prime examples. Where Wonder Woman, it opened to like 100 million domestically. And it has continued to build, and everyone kept going back to see it, and now it's at 400 domestic, which is crazy. It's the biggest hit of the summer. Yeah, but I think 2016 played a very crucial part in people not wanting to go to the movies anymore. Not to mention Netflix and Amazon and all those streaming sites. And Game of Thrones is back. Game of Thrones for the first time ever has come back in the summertime, which I think plays more a crucial part than people realize. Because the Game of Thrones is a massive program. It gets like 10 million views an episode, that baffles me. But I think that the combination of 2016 being terrible and the TV stuff has laid over in 2017, kind of like how Civil War's box office opening weekend, I feel, was definitely affected by Batman v Superman. And I think that to the general public, most people that didn't see Deadpool are like, oh, I'll go watch Batman v Superman because it's superheroes fighting each other. And then 6 or 7 weeks pass and you're getting the exact same thing again. And what should have easily been a 210, 220 opening weekend was a 190 opening weekend. And I know what everyone's saying, it's a Captain America movie, it's not an Avengers movie. It was marketed as an Avengers movie. and so that's what that's why they expected Avengers money, and so like I think the carryover is adamant. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of last year's disappointing films had a holdover effect. Definitely, I think sequelitis is. I hate using that term because it seems like so derogatory, but I think that was a big factor this summer. Everything from Baywatch, The Mummy, Alien, Transformers, Pirates of the Caribbean, these are franchises that were completely on the wane. Even with Baywatch, that really underperformed despite The Rock and Zac Efron, who have done really well independently of each other.
They have a good comedy. Like Central Intelligence was a big hit last year.
Yeah. It's also just the idea that the only runaway hits this summer were superhero films. It was Wonder Woman, it was Spider-Man, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The other films that were touted to be tentpoles just did not do as well. Maybe studios are becoming a bit too reliant on this singular genre. I don't think that I'm not saying that it's overkill with comic book films. I'm just saying that studios are saying this is our superhero film for the summer. That's really all we can rely on.
Yeah, in the same way. I mean, I think you're completely right when you say that, because I mean, in many ways, that's kind of what brought Hollywood to a different point. You know, we can film history time going back to like the 50s. You know, movie musicals. You know, and CinemaScope was more the 70s, but you know, movie musicals was what people went out to see. You know, for a while it was the grand kind of epics like Cleopatra and Ben-Hur, and then it was these grand movie musicals, and then we were talking about the westerns with Clint Eastwood and John Wayne, and now we're in these age of superhero films where you're right, maybe studios shouldn't focus on the fact that, oh, people are just going to go watch Wonder Woman or Guardians of the Galaxy, and maybe they should actually put effort into not making Pirates of the Caribbean 5 terrible.
Yeah, well, it's also... I refuse to believe that movies are a meritocracy, because like the best films of the year are not the highest grossing films of the year. People like to say, oh, if it's good, people will watch it. If it's so bad, why did it make $1 billion? I don't believe that logic. But you're kind of seeing Rotten Tomatoes really have an impact here. Like I know that studios were having massive issues with Rotten Tomatoes because they were. They were being blamed for films like Baywatch or the Emoji Movie and The Dark Tower not doing well, but hopefully that kind of sent a signal to filmmakers that, you know, the Marvel films are well received and do well because they spend so much time in the script and planning periods. So maybe they'll need to do the same for their bigger films.
Yeah, there's a reason, you know, the Pixar films always do well. Even Pixar didn't do well this past year, but there's a reason the Pixar films consistently do well, and that's because they hold those 98, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, because they are generally consistently well adored films.
Yeah, and also August is a barren wasteland in terms of releases, where we can see Annabelle Creation and The Hitman's Bodyguard become #1 films. Where if you release War for the Planet of the Apes in August, that movie cleans up. Whereas its release date in July, sandwiched between Spider-Man: Homecoming and Dunkirk, it underperformed. It's going to lose 20th Century Fox money, which is quite disappointing. But there's a statistic that I read the other day which blew my mind. So every year, around 750 films are released every single year. 100 of those films take up 92% of the US box office, and 8% is 650 films. That blows my mind, that statistic. And I think Hollywood needs to embrace the mid-tier film now. There was a time when you could make a movie for 30 or 40 million or less, and you could make a couple of $100 million. Like Get Out cost $5 million and it makes a massive profit. Deadpool is a $50 million film and it makes $700 million.
Gone Girl is another good example of that. I think that was like maybe 30-40 million. And it was that's the definition of a mid. It wasn't like an independent film. It had a lot of big stars. It had a bigger budget to it, obviously, and it crushed. It made like $300-400 million. It was a big hit.
Yeah. I think Hollywood needs to. I don't know. I don't want to be pretend to be the lone voice of reason who knows exactly what Hollywood needs to do, because it seems like it's, for the most part, doing the right thing. It is making these big tentpoles in order to support indie art house or smaller budgeted films, and occasionally throwing a mid-tier film out there like Baby Driver or like The Big Sick and stuff like that. It's tough to say. It's just maybe they just need higher quality and maybe better release strategies. And if maybe instead of putting something like Hush on Netflix, you give it a wider release. You let that festival buzz and the critical acclaim that you get for films like Get Out to let that carry it.
I think we are in a different. I think studios are starting to catch on. I mean, just look at the news of. I think studios they're listening to people. I mean, just look at the superhero stuff. With DC and Warner Brothers, I think they're definitely paying attention to what people are responding to. There's a reason Harley Quinn's been in the news so much recently. That's a reason that people aren't so much talking about Deadshot, Killer Croc, Boomerang spin-offs, and they're talking about, let's make a Suicide Squad 2, or more importantly, let's make the Joker and a Harley Quinn film. Let's talk about the Batman. People, I think the reason DC is course correcting so much is because they're trying to crack this formula of how do we not make films that bomb. And I think they're catching on, but they're catching on, I think, to the wrong stuff. Because the reason Wonder Woman made $400 million domestic is not because it was because she was a popular character. It helped opening weekend, obviously, but it was because the movie itself was good. The characterization and stuff, it was a well-made, well-put-together film, and that kept audiences coming back. And I think that if studio can realize that people. Well, the better your movie is, the more people will be coming back. You may not catch $1 billion every time around, but a movie like Mad Max, which opened, I think, at number 4, its opening weekend, but consistently stayed in the top 5 and has kept going. A movie like Guardians of the Galaxy opened at number 1, lost out to Ninja Turtles, beat Ninja Turtles in the 3rd weekend, and then kept building, people kept coming back to it. Wonder Woman, Get Out's another great example. We talked about the 1,000% profit or whatever it made. Get Out is a great example, and these are and Baby Driver, $100 million domestic for an Edgar Wright film, unheard of. Most Edgar Wright films make like Lakem money, but I think it's this combination of it's good films. People are going out to see good films, and granted, there are good films out there that don't get marketed as well. Like It Comes at Night it's a more niche film, so a lot of people aren't going to go see that one. But if you're talking about the big blockbusters, the reason people, if you don't have an established brand like Marvel, your first thing is to make sure that it's good. And I know I can't just to be like, make the movies good. That's a hard thing to do. But those are the films that are going to make your money. You can't just make like Pitch Perfect 3 is going to bomb this year. Bet on it. It's gonna be the lowest performing film in the franchise. I guarantee it. And I think it's because people are trying to catch on to the fact that it much like in the old days where they just churned out sequels and they started doing less and less. That mindset can't be applied anymore. I think in the law of diminishing returns, I think 2018, especially 2019, is going to see a very different change in how these big blockbusters are done. Because if we're not careful, we'll be back in the time of the late 90s or early 2000s where we get the same kind of schlock every summer. Because if we're not careful, that's what we're going to get to. But I think I don't want to say we're on another resurgence, but I think we're in space for something else to kind of sneak its way in, and I think you're right. It might be the mid-tier movie, so it might be the next big boom.
Yeah, I feel like we need not another Lord of the Rings, but another fantasy film that's original. But
that's difficult right now with Game of Thrones.
Exactly, yeah. But and also even high concept science fiction that's either original or based on source material that not many people have heard of, like Jupiter Ascending or Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. They both bombed. Like you can't really say that studios aren't trying to invest.
But the difference being is that I haven't seen Valerian, but I've not heard good things. But Jupiter Ascending is awful. It's not a good film. If it was a good film, it would have done okay because it would have had word of mouth. It would have became a cult hit because that's how that works.
But it still shows that studios are still at least trying to put out these big high concept blockbusters that are not comic book movie related, and they've not crossed the finish line in a good or ideal way. But the money and time still being invested there, which I appreciate, but I just wish that the films were better. If that makes sense. When people say Hollywood doesn't make anything original anymore. There's more original films being made now than at any point in Hollywood history, because there's more films being made now than at any other point in Hollywood history in general.
Careful there, Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah. I'm trying.
With all your repeated dialogue. No, you're right,
with
though.
all of my word things.
With all your wordplay. No, you're right, though. We are at a point in Hollywood where more films are being made now than ever. And that means there's going to be a lot more original film out there. And I think 2017 was a good year for original movies. I think 2017 was a good year for movies so far in general. I just think that it may not have been as good as 2014 or 2015, but compared to 2016, it's like 2011, you know? We're 2011.
Yeah.
After the atrocity of 2010, 2011 came out, and it's like, hey, look, Kung Fu Panda 2. That's a good one. Yeah.
But yeah, God knows what's going to happen if Netflix start making original films that are, critically well received. Because people, you mentioned earlier that Netflix is legitimate competition for moviegoers, which is absolutely the case. But when they release films like Death Note or War Machine, which are critically panned, let's see what happens when they start releasing legitimately great mid-tier films. Like Oakja's good. I've heard good things about To the Bone, but I've not watched it yet.
Yeah.
But when we start getting, say, a Deadpool-style budgeted film, like what's that film with Will Smith?
Right.
Bright.
I was about to bring that up. Yeah.
Bright,
I think, is going to be the big tester.
Yeah, that could be it. So when you've got film like alternative competition like Amazon Studios and Netflix providing this counter programming and filling this mid-tiered budgeted niche, that shouldn't be a niche, but that's kind of how it's evolved now. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Okay. All right, shall be good discussion on the summer.
The Mummy sucked.
All right, Shelby. All right, so I guess just to recap, my top 3 worst films of the year were Wind River, Alien Covenant, and Transformers: The Last Night. And
my 3 worst were Transformers: The Last Night at number 3, 2 The Mummy, and 1 Alien Covenant. Where the hell did where did he get his hoodie from? Michael Fassbender's hoodie. Where did he get it from?
Where'd the hoodie come from? All right. And I suppose we should. Hoodie? I don't know if we brought up Spider-Man, didn't we? Because I did enjoy Spider-Man a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was alright.
Yeah, I just think upon reflection, those 3 films are far better in my opinion. But this is a good year for films. I think this is a good summer. I enjoyed myself this summer at the movies. Okay, Trilby, I believe it's time for listener questions.
Yes.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
All right, all right, guys. This is the listener question portion of the show, which gets to talk about those listener questions that you guys left on the Facebook page. Movie Mania Podcast, by the way, is the Facebook page because people asked me. Go to facebook.com/Movie Mania Podcast, and that is how you find us on Facebook. Okay, Seb Petey, friend of the show, Seb Petey asks, favorite opening scenes?
Ooh, okay. We got to be a cliche, predictable Christopher Nolan fanboy and say the opening of The Dark Knight.
Well, I watched it yesterday, and my God, it's great. It is good though. I know it's not it might not be my favorite ever. But damn if it's not fantastic. It's great. I don't know how you don't go the original Star Wars. The original Star Wars is really good.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really good classic opening scene. We can talk... I mean, in terms of an opening scene that describes what the film you're about to watch is, The Shining has a great opening scene. I don't know if I can call it opening scene or just more opening credits, because it's just them driving to the Overlook, but... It sets up the terrifying score. It sets up the sense of dread you're going to feel this entire film. And you get everything that you're going to get from The Shining in the opening scene. And it just sets you up so beautifully for what you're going to for the rest of the film.
I think we need to appreciate how great the beginning of Toy Story is.
The first one? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like how we see this fake play robbery. Mm-hmm. When Andy's playing with his toys, and he throws Woody on the bed and goes downstairs, and then you can see him come to life, and he says, "Pull my string, the birthday party is today," and it's actually a really compelling opening. It really draws you in. I like how cleverly structured it is.
I think Toy Story 3's opening is better, not because it looks better, but I think it's just because it's a nice. It's a callback, and it plays on the thought of
money.
It's just it plays on the thought of. This is what we all envisioned when we play with our toys, and it has a nice kind of stark contrast with the actual reality of the situation, which I think is a nice theme for the entire film of expectation versus reality, and what the real world is. And I don't know, Toy Story 3 is such a complex film in my opinion. Not enough people, I think, give the film points for complexity. But the opening in Toy Story, it does look great. That the animation is beautiful. But if we're going Pixar, I don't love this movie, but I mean not Toy Story, Finding Nemo.
Oh yes, and yeah, that's terrifying.
My God, it kicks you in the gut, and it does it so quickly too, because you spend about maybe a minute, 2 minutes, and they're just talking about, oh, we're gonna name the babies this, and this, and then like there's 100 eggs, and they're all just gone, and you don't see like cracked eggshells or anything. They don't do that to you. Everyone's just gone, and I think that's such a striking image of this father finding one egg left. And he's like, and he wants to name all his kids Marlon Jr. I love that joke. We'll name this side Marlon Jr.
We'll call this half Coral Jr. and this half Marlon Jr.
I love that. I think that's perfect kind of setup for how relationships work sometimes. And then she's like I like Nemo, and it's just a throwaway line. He's like, all right, well, that one killed Nemo, but the rest should be called Marlon Jr. I love I love how that scene works, and you can tell he's such a different person before that happens, and then when it happens and he wakes up and the lighting it's dreary, and he's just lost essentially everything to the open ocean. And I think which explains a lot when you go back and watch that opening scene as opposed to when he goes to the drop off, and you can see the shots are very similar. And then he finds this one egg, and the barracuda, the barracuda barely missed him, you can tell, because it's the egg is cracked. You can tell that egg was about to be killed, but it barely didn't see him or something. And this one egg survives. And he's like, I got you, Nemo. I got you.
And because the opening is so effective and traumatizing, we completely understand why Marlon is so overprotective.
Yeah, and I don't think the rest of the film, with the exception of maybe the jellyfish sequence, I don't think the rest of the film holds up emotionally wise and just character wise, as opposed to the opening scene. My uncle's laughing in the background. As opposed to the opening scene,
it doesn't hold up emotionally.
As opposed to the opening scene of the film, as opposed to another film we'll talk about in a few minutes. But the opening of Finding Nemo, I mean, the Thomas Newman score, the way it kicks in, oh man, and you know the ba 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 da da da, and then the title. It's a beautiful opening sequence. Yeah.
So when I think of a franchise with great openings, you go to James Bond.
Oh yeah,
you've got the opening of GoldenEye when he infiltrates that dam, and he's hanging upside down and knocks out the guy in the toilet. He jumps off the dam with the bungee cord. You've got the opening of Casino Royale, shot in black and white.
Maybe my favorite opening James Bond film ever.
And it's so cleverly segues into the gun barrel sequence as well.
So good.
Then you've got Chris Cornell's music kicking in. Rest in peace, Chris Cornell.
Yeah. You know my name. But
the opening for Skyfall is great as well, but Casino Royale, you're completely taken off guard by that opening.
Yeah.
Because if you were to watch the franchise in order, Die Another Day is so campy. There's obvious Pierce Brosnan in front of a green screen, surfing with a parachute, and there's an invisible car and diamond layers, and it's such a tone. Yeah, and it's such a tonal whiplash. To suddenly have Casino Royale's this black and white opening where he drowns this guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it opens and it's Daniel Craig beating up a guy, tossing him in a toilet, and drowning him in the sink.
Yeah, and you're like, his very first kill.
Yeah, and I love the fact that his first kill is the gun barrel, and I think that's such a nice touch. And just the way it leads in, you hear the music slowly building, you hear the kind of that Hans Zimmer thing. And then, the guy gets out, and it just leads into this song, and you're like, oh, we're in the title sequence now. And it's a great title sequence. But you're right, Skyfall that feels more like classic Bond, I guess.
It's such a great set piece as well. And when they're on the train and they flatten their bodies just as they're about to hit the tunnel.
Uncle laughed again. Well, even how the movie opens, it does its own version of the gun barrel, where we hold on that shot of the hallway, and he enters the frame, the music goes ba-na, and it does its own gun barrel, and we get that long shot of him approaching. It's our way of being like, here's James Bond, let's go. And I give Spectre a lot of crap, but I think that's a very good opening scene in Spectre as well. A little too CG, but I still appreciate the opening sequence.
I love the opening of La La Land as well. I think that Another Day of Sunset piece is brilliant.
I think it's the worst scene in the movie. In fact, when I first watched the movie, I was like, oh no. The movie's been overhyped. I'm not liking this. It actually
Stars is, I think, the weakest sequence for me.
Which when they're both at the piano, or when he dances with the lady on the pier?
When he's on the pier.
Oh no, Trillbee! All right.
That song, regardless of its context in the film, just I guess feels so weak to me.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
oddly enough, that's the one that gets all the Oscar nominations.
Fair. I think it's a beautifully. I think
It's
this. No, I mean, I'm more freaking out about the cinematography in that scene more than anything. But it's gorgeous. It might as well be. It's film porn. That's essentially what it is. It's just like, look how nice this is. But in fact, talking about La La Land, it wasn't until someone in the crowd that I was actually pulled into the film. That was a sequence to me where I was like, this is fantastic, and now I understand why everyone's loving this.
But now we're talking about Damien Chazelle. What about the opening for Whiplash when he's practicing on his own, and then Fletcher walks in, and or he's already cutting him down.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, I forgot my jacket.
Yeah. And like from the get-go, you just establish this relationship. Talking about, again, gorgeous cinematography for very different reasons. But I don't know how we can't talk about opening scenes and not bring up. I mean, that's the cliche answer, isn't it? If how the opening scene of Up rips your heart out in 7 minutes. And I think much against Finding Nemo, I think Up has far more emotional resonance in the rest of the film than Finding Nemo does. Just in the sense that the callback to it with that book, that adventure book, and how this guy has gone the last maybe few years of his life, not trying to preserve what memory he had of his beloved wife, only to realize that she wanted him to move on. In that scene, he's looking in the book, she's like, and now go on your own adventures, and it's a little note in the corner, and that scene gets me every time he does that, and he looks up at her chair, and the lighting gets brighter all of a sudden. Every time I shed a tear, I'm like, that's too good. That's so beautiful.
I know it's a separate question. We're talking about favorite openings, but if you were to ask me what is the best use of metaphor ever in film, it's got to be Up, and it's got to be this guy who is literally carrying around his past through this, personified by this house, and how it's dragging him down, it's slowing him down, and just everything he's willing to do to try and keep a hold of that past, and then at the end how he does let go of it. It's heavy-handed, but it's phenomenally done. I'd
say it was that if Inside Out didn't come out, and we didn't have that scene where Riley gets back home to her family, and she lets out this sigh, and the yellow and blue ball comes out, and for the first time ever, this girl's experiencing what melancholy is. And I think that, I don't know, that to me is such a perfect... I just got
chills imagining the music cue.
Yeah. Dun, 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 you want to think about a movie, like, Steve Jobs is one of my favorite movies of all time, but like, both those films in 2015 was such a good year, both have moments where simple, very subtle editing choices can make me just applaud every time I watch it. I won't gush about Steve Jobs anymore because I've talked about
Inside Steve Jobs.
No, but I mean, I'm talking more importantly to the scene at the end where he's talking about he makes a realization about his daughter, and it cuts to her working on the computer. And he gets this look of like, oh my god, she's my kid, and it kills me every time. Talk about scenes that make me gush. Really so good. Okay, sorry. All right, we're talking about opening scenes, right? Opening scenes. Any other opening scenes that kind of stick with you?
Probably
Sorcerer's or Philosopher's Stone, if you will.
See, that's only a brilliant opening because I've watched it so many times.
Yeah, but it does set a nice precedent. The John Williams score. McGonagall's a bit more cheery in that opening scene, though. I do remember in the book, just like it's the boy who lived. But in the post movie.
The opening of the book is it follows Uncle Dursley, where he's going through just a normal day in his life, and he's kind of like on the fringes of the wizard world, but he doesn't quite realize it yet. Like, he's seeing owls everywhere. People are talking about, Voldemort, like, he who should not be named is dead, and he's like, well, these crackpots, what are they on about? It's so the reader is gradually introduced into the world of magic, but then the film itself opens with all of this magical stuff immediately. It's an interesting way to adapt the opening scene. Interesting.
It's kind of like dumping you in the deep end and then dragging you back to the shallow water. To be like, be ready. But anyways, I don't know. I think that's a nice approach. Harry Potter has some fantastic opening sequences as well, but that's more musical based in my opinion than anything, because I think the opening to Goblet of Fire is just chilling. Everything leading up to the title card is so awesome.
So how does Goblet of... Is that the one where it's the first person, it's the caretaker who goes into the
yeah,
house?
well, and then we see him, this old guy drinking his tea and whatever, and Voldemort kills him. I mean, and you get that really nice chilling opening through the statues in the graveyard, and we see Nagini kind of for the first time, and we get Patrick Doyle's take on the Harry Potter theme, and it's perfection. Goblet of Fire is so darn good, but the Lumos Maxima from Prisoner of Azkaban is great too.
It is, yeah.
I mean, there's so many great opening scenes in my favorite films. I can talk about so many of them. We can go on forever talking about opening scenes.
It probably doesn't count as an opening scene, but in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where it's just the opening credits for 4 or 5 minutes is just shots of chocolate.
Yeah. I was just thinking of some of my favorite films. Reservoir Dogs. Mm-hmm. Have you seen
the restaurant?
Yeah, he's talking about tipping. He's talking about Like a Virgin. That's classic Tarantino for you. Am I right? Mm-hmm. I love that.
How does Inglourious Basterds?
I was about to say Inglourious Basterds might be it though. Yeah. I mean, there are videos on that scene alone. People talking about this. May I have some of your delicious milk? I love it. It's so perfect.
And he brings out this massive pipe.
Oh, and like Quentin Tarantino always talks about that scene about how he's like this calm French man comes out and this German guy comes in with like this super sized pipe. Yeah. Oh man, I'm just trying to think about any other opening scene that got me as much as like a Dark Knight or Inglourious Basterds did. I wish Inglourious Basterds was as good as the opening scene is. I like Inglourious Basterds, but I think the opening scene holds a shadow over the rest of the movie. It has great moments and it has great lines, but I can't think of like Django Unchained. I think builds to a gradually incredible ending. I don't think of when I think of Inglourious Basterds. I think of the opening scene, and I think of the bar scene, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I'm not going to say this is like a top 10 opening scenes ever, but there's the film called Everly from a few years ago with Selma Hayek. It's basically a B-movie exploitation film, but the movie opens with the main character like injured and like covered in blood, like running into a bathroom to clean herself up and like sobbing after having been raped. And it's just an incredibly effective opening. Selma Hayek doesn't hold back from it. Mm-hmm. It's like that's immediately engages you and makes you root for this character or make you feel sympathy for this character. Massively on the nose, but for some reason that opening just really sticks with me.
Yeah, The Conjuring is a great opening as well with the Annabelle doll. Our first introduction to that bloody doll. It wouldn't surprise
me if that scene was done in reshoots. That Warner Brothers was like, we need something to put on the Conjuring poster that's not a spoiler.
Yeah. It's chilling. I mean that scene. It's because from before that, our killer dolls, we think of Chucky, but now we think of killer dolls, we think of that Annabelle doll, and I think James Wan does such an incredible job with that. It sets up the way it's shot, the music, everything about it, everything feels so 70s horror. I don't know.
Yeah, well, for years I thought you can't do a short film, a really good creepy short film based on a killer doll, because you need so much setup and so much so much suspicion as to whether or not it's real or if it's in their mind. But then within 5 minutes of the Conjuring, you're like, yeah, you can do this.
It's amazing by like film. All he does. Really, the scariest thing he ever really does in the movie is knock on a door a few times and have a crayon note in front of the door, and it's awesome. I think that's why the movie is so good. I don't know. It
opening of Saw's pretty good as well.
Yes, it is. I don't want to give too many details to that one though, because I really, if you guys haven't seen Saw, you need to.
Well, there's a lot of the Saw films open in the same way as like a James Bond movie, where it's just the sort of films open with a standalone trap that is disconnected from the rest of the film. But it's a good way to grab you. Saw 2 opens with that guy who's chained to all of the walls and he has to rip all the chains out of him. Yeah. Or is that Saw 3? I think that's Saw 2. Actually.
I know Saw 2 has the needle pit, which is
Oh, Saw 2 is the needle pit. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, Saw 3 is the one where he has to rip chains from his body.
Yeah.
I'm Wikipediaing as fast as I can.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of many other opening scenes. I'm sure I'll think of one the moment this movie is over. The moment the podcast is over. Excuse me.
Oh, and Saw 5 has got the pendulum blade. That it opens with that one.
Oh, okay. I thought it opened with the box. My bad. Do you have another question, Trillbee, on your Facebook page?
Let me have a look. I did not have one ready.
Okay. Dean Jones. He asks, huh?
I'm just celebrating Dean Jones.
Oh, okay. Dean Jones asks, favorite Marvel Netflix series and season so far?
I'm in the minority. Jessica Jones.
I'm in the minority. Daredevil season 2.
Okay. I've not finished season 2, to be honest. The only ones I've watched in their completion are Daredevil Series 1 and Jessica Jones Series 1.
Okay, so I think the first half of Daredevil season 2 is good enough to excuse the rest of Daredevil season 2. I think maybe I'm a little biased, but I think first of all, the Punisher stuff can be its own movie. Like you might if I wanted to show someone a Daredevil movie, I would just edit the first 3 episodes of Daredevil season 2 and just make that in a movie, because that is so good on its own. But the reason I don't like Jessica Jones is because it's really plotting, and it goes for too long, in my personal opinion. But you're right. Everything with David Tennant is fantastic, and I think it's the episode where she's in her house. That's a genuinely great episode, and I think the other one when he's in his prison cell is another good episode as well.
I think Jessica Jones and Daredevil Series 1, they make very good use of the television format. Yes. In that it doesn't feel like this is a 13-hour movie. It feels like it's a long story, but there are mini stories and mini arcs throughout them. Like in Jessica Jones, there is the episode where she is in the house with Kilgrave, and she tries to convince him that he can be a good guy. Mm-hmm. And there's the episode in Daredevil Series 1 where it's intercut with flashbacks where he's... I can't remember how it happens, but he's attacked by that ninja with the hook blades.
Yeah,
so he spends most of an episode just on a sofa.
That's my favorite episode of the first season. It's just him on the couch feeling sorry for himself, and it's great.
Yeah, you would not get a scene or sequence like that in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's making great use of the serialized format. And whereas Luke Cage, it's hard to get invested in Luke Cage because the guy spends 10 episodes trying to get out of his own series. And Iron Fist, I've not watched Iron Fist.
Me neither. You have not. You don't need to watch the Immortal Iron Fist. Don't worry.
But isn't that true about Luke Cage? He just spends 10 episodes trying to get away from his own series.
Yeah, I think the problem with Luke Cage, and this is spoilers for Luke Cage, they kill off their most compelling character about 5 or 6 episodes in.
Yeah. They
kill off Cottonmouth, played by Mahershala Ali, who I think from that point on, I'm like, this is a really I like this villain. He's fun. He's threatening. You know, he clearly, you could tell he clearly cares about his neighborhood, but he's just doing it in an evil way. And I'm excited to see how Luke Cage is going to have to take him down. And then he just dies. And you're just like, well, who's taking over? And it's this really uninteresting, campy, hammy, chewy scenery, Mariah whatever face is, and then it's this really obnoxious guy with shades on who they call Shades, and then they introduce this character named Diamondback who's just like this religious spewing definitely not interesting guy that's like, I know how to take down Luke Cage, I'm gonna shoot Luke Cage. It's the exact wrong approach to handle this film. It takes it to a place that's far too comic booky for my taste, and it really doesn't mesh with the first half of the season at all.
Yeah, I agree. But with Jessica Jones, I love... I think Daredevil is a much better gateway to the Netflix series because it does have like more action, and it does feel... It works better as like a procedural drama, like a court drama. Mm-hmm. And of course it is the first Netflix series, so it does work naturally as a good gateway. But Jessica Jones... I feel like it may not have as much action in it, and the action that we do get doesn't compete with Daredevil, but it seems to in a way, it has a lot more on its mind, I think, and it's not that often that you get stories about abuse that take place after the abuse has happened. It feels a lot more. I don't want to say novel because it sounds like I'm belittling the subject, but it feels more unique. We don't see this perspective in almost any form of media, let alone on the Netflix comic book series.
Yeah,
it's something I really appreciated.
Maybe it's because I'm a fan of the comic book, like the Alias storyline, and so I know the story of Jessica Jones and Kilgrave, but I feel like the series feels like it's pulling a lot of its punches, and it doesn't go in directions I think it easily could have. This is a Netflix-based television series. You can easily go certain places, and they touch on certain things, like the fact that Kilgrave essentially raped Jessica for 18 months, but they don't really go there. They don't go to the levels I think they could have easily gone, because that's the comic book goes there. It goes places. And where Jessica Jones is in the comic book and where she is in the TV show, Kristen Ritter, she does a good job in my opinion, but her performance is far more lax and pulled back than opposed. You read the Alias comic book, and Jessica Jones is a sad person. It is a sad and dreary life for this former superhero. And I think that the show never reaches the heights that I believe it could have. And I grant that is an issue that only someone who has read the comic book, would have, I imagine. Yeah. But
the one thing about Jessica Jones that makes her, in a way, more interesting in the comic books is that she did have a superhero career, and then she has this downfall after meeting Kilgrave. Whereas the comic book, the Netflix series, we only meet her and we are introduced to her after the abuse has taken place. It's a different perspective, and I understand a preference from one or the other, but it's something that the Netflix series seems to have made a conscious choice to do. We don't really see her much as a hero at all. No. We're dealing with the aftermath of somebody, as opposed to seeing a rise and fall like we do in the comics.
And what I will say is that it does have the best villain in the MCU probably at this point, which is Kilgrave. Jesus Christ, he's so good.
I love Kingpin, and I think Vincent D'Onofrio is amazing in the role.
Why would you even try suggest that, Trillbee?
But there's something about Kilgrave's, like he's got his own persecution complex that is. It's so terrifying, but it's something you see every day. It's like I'm the victim. I have to control everything I say.
Well, I think he's a reflection of what we would be. You know, I think because we always are like, oh, I'd love to have mind control power so I could do blah blah blah, do blah blah blah. But then when you see what that's like, it's terrifying. And not to mention David Tennant gives an incredibly charismatic performance, and he's so enthralling to watch. And I think you realize what he's doing is what's terrifying. And I think the biggest mistake so far the MCU was killing him off. And I say that having seen Iron Man 4. I think the biggest mistake of the entire MCU was killing off Kilgrave. That's your Darth Maul, and you ruined it. It's gone. Because can you imagine Kilgrave versus Daredevil? That just makes me smile.
Can you imagine just going into the MCU offices and then Kilgrave comes in and says, "You see that coffee? Throw it in your face. You see that great character? Kill him off."
Yeah, and apparently he's back in flashbacks or whatever, but I'm completely fine with David Tennant walking around with his neck backwards, if that means bringing him back. I'm completely okay with that. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. But whatever. Okay. Tell you what, Childer, we'll close it off there.
Alright, I'm sorry if I'm stammering and falling over. I'm quite tired.
No, you're fine. And with that, we will end this episode of the Mania Podcast. Thank you guys all for listening. Talking about the best and just pretty much talking about summer 2017. We'll be back next week to talk the fall movie preview, talking about all films coming out from September to December. Everything from It to Last Jedi. Yay! And it's going to be... This fall looks pretty exciting. Childer, where can people find you?
Okay, so what you gotta do, you gotta take my links, you gotta go on Trillbee.com and Miss TARDIS Reviews on Facebook and also on YouTube, and Trillbee Reviews on YouTube. You gotta shove them off your butt. You gotta shove them off your butt, Marty. You gotta get them way up there. Gotta get them way up there and watch them all. And also, I don't know.
We have new machines. What new machines? They detect plugs all the way up the butt. Run, Morty!
Run, Morty! Anyway, yeah, I also announced on my Facebook page this past week that my next short film, Before He Wakes, has now entered pre-production. And if the concept sounds familiar to you as I described it in my Facebook post, it's because it's the film that I pitched during the Campfire episode in last October's Movie Mania podcast. I forgot that I pitched out that podcast until someone reminded me.
Well, yeah, because I saw the Facebook post. I'm like, I'm going to share this to the Movie Mania page because I saw that. Trillbee, I know you won't let me, but I'd love to read that script. I'm sure it's fantastic.
I'll send it right now.
Oh, well, why thank you, Trillbee.
Well, I'll send the latest draft. I had a few ideas like this past weekend of just a couple of moments and scenes to add to it.
So what I'm going to read is not the shooting script. It's a draft.
It is the latest draft, but it's something that if the crew was together tomorrow, we could film with it. But yeah, it's for those of you who weren't there for the last October Campfire special. It is a horror drama about someone who is sleepwalking, and my Google Chrome just turned off halfway through sending you the script. Let me try that again. I'll send it to you through Facebook.
It's almost as if the world was like, no.
No, Trey does not get to read this.
He doesn't get it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the reason I've been watching so many horror films this past couple of days. Not because I want to steal ideas or anything, but the toughest part of this film for me is that it takes place indoors at night with very little artificial interior lighting, and we need to find a way to make that work. So Hush was actually a really good example for that because they cut the power like halfway through the film. That was good. That was a good example. But folks, don't try and plan lighting. It's really difficult. But yeah, that script will be on its way to you in like 30 seconds.
Fantastic.
So hoping to film that mid-September, and we're going to aim for an October Halloween finish. Not necessarily a release in Halloween October, but we want to try and get it done by then and maybe get it into some festivals, and I'll keep you guys updated if there's any progress on that. And if it gets in no festivals, if people do not like it or respond to it, we'll put it on YouTube anyway so you can watch it then. That'll be fun.
Fantastic. Wonderful. All right.
So Trey, where can people find you online?
They can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Podcast Media. If you guys ever have anything you'd like to send to us, you can send it to us via there. Like I said before, fan art. If you ever want to send us fan art or anything you want to be put in the thumbnail, I'll gladly take a look at it. We, as you have seen throughout the weeks, we have pretty much no restrictions on what the thumbnail can be. So, I mean, whether it's us as magic-like characters or us as gritty detectives in TV shows, it doesn't matter. So thank you guys all so much for watching, and catch you all later, our Movie Maniacs.